This is Adam Graham from Pretty Much the Present, bringing you a week of old-time radio podcasts. These episodes were originally released back in 2011, and we're releasing them here pretty much as is, with only some extraneous bits such as the opening from all of the episodes after the first episode removed. Because these are old, it should be noted that any offers or promotions mentioned in the episode may not be valid unless they're currently mentioned on the Great Detectives website. Here now is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, please send it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Remember, cast your vote for the show once a month on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And you can become one of our friends over on Twitter at Radio Detectives. Well, before we get started with today's adventures of the Abbott story, I do want to encourage you, if you haven't already, to check out my novel, Tales of the Dim Night. We have a website with information on the novel, reviews, interviews with me on various websites, as well as the first chapter sample of the story. We have it in paperback and in pretty much any e-reader format you can imagine. So be sure to check out dimnight.com. Well, let's go ahead and we will take a listen to today's episode, The Canary-Yellow Sack.
After all, it's difficult to be romantic with your husband with another woman in the room, especially if the woman's just been murdered.
The National Broadcasting Company presents The Adventures of the Abbotts, starring Claudia Morgan and Les Damon as Jean and Pat Abbott, those popular characters of detective fiction created by Francis Crane. NBC invites you to join Pat and Jean each week at this time for another exciting recorded adventure in romance and crime. Tonight's story, The Canary-Yellow Sack. And here is Claudia Morgan as Jean Abbott to set the stage for tonight's puzzle in murder.
I'd gone to Pat's office to call for him and take him home. Pat's a very successful private detective in San Francisco, and you'd think you'd find him with secretaries, talking long distance, consulting perhaps with some brilliant criminologist. But when I came in...
Hello, darling.
Pat Abbott, it's hardly becoming to an outstanding detective to be found at his desk reading a nursery book.
Mm-hmm.
What is it, Pat?
Hansel and Gretel. I bought it for a birthday present. For my nephew Donald. Remember him?
Oh, well, that's different.
He's such a cute kid.
Yes, he's very cute, but that'll do, dear. Put the book away. You're going to solve a mystery for me.
Well, what's the problem?
It's about this newspaper clipping. I took it out of the bulletin's classified section. Go on, read it.
For sale, old chromo, picture of Zachary Taylor. Well, of all the silly...
Go on.
Chromo picture of Zachary Taylor. Price, $12.30, right box 27. Well, what about it?
I sent them a check for $12.30, Pat.
You actually want a second-hand chromo of Zachary Taylor?
I most certainly do. For your information, my great-grandfather was related to Zachary Taylor.
Well, do tell. Imagine being married to a celebrity all this time and not knowing it. Did you get the chromo?
No, I got the check back. With a note saying they were very sorry the chromo had been sold.
Oh, bad luck. So what?
Well, I thought that's all it was, too, but... Look, here's another clipping. Advertising the same thing. I saw it in an out-of-town paper just this morning. Read it, dear.
For sale, old chromo Zachary Taylor, second hand. Price $11.15.
Now, you see, Pat, this ad offering the same chromo at a cheaper price just appeared today. Now, why in the world did they turn me down last week and then offer the same chromo in another paper for less money?
I don't know, dear. Besides, I am not interested.
Pat, it just doesn't make sense. Are you a detective or aren't you? Well, what do you think?
I think a Smirnoff vodka at Leo's would be perfect. Yes, come in.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes?
My name is Stewart. Mrs. Tom Stewart. I need your help, Mr. Abbott.
Well, go ahead. What's wrong?
Well, it's confidential.
Oh, that's all right. This is my wife. We often work together on a case.
Well, it's about my husband.
Mm-hmm.
He's disappeared.
Disappeared? Well, when and where did you see him last?
It all started about 2 weeks ago when I clipped this advertisement from the bulletin. Here, read it.
For sale. Old chromo picture of Henry Clay, second-hand.
Oh, Pat, it's the same...
Wait a minute. Price, $17.20, box 89.
Well, if that isn't the most amazing coincidence...
Mrs. Stewart, what happened after you saw this ad?
Well, I'm very interested in American history, so I thought I'd buy it. I sent a check to box 89, and then I never heard from them. I wrote again, and finally, the day before yesterday, I sent my husband down to the newspaper office. I told him to get the address of these people and ask them what they'd done about my check.
Did he find them?
Well, I don't know. Tom went down to the newspaper office, and he never came back. I tried to find him. I called every place he might have gone. His office, his friends.
Uh-huh. Well, have you reported this to the Missing Persons Bureau?
Yes, but, they're so casual about these things, and I wanted someone who'd take a personal interest in the case. Someone who wouldn't lose a minute. Someone
Mrs. Stewart, what does your husband look like?
Well, he's tall.
How tall?
5'8".
Well, that's not very tall.
Well, maybe he's 5'9" or 10. I don't know exactly. He weighs about 150 pounds.
What color hair has he?
Brown. He had brown eyes, and, he was very thin.
Thin? 5'8", weighing 150?
Well, I call him thin. He looks sort of...
Pat! She's been shot. What'll I do?
You look after her, Jean. Those shots came from out in the hall.
Pat, what...
Stay with that woman.
Oh, here, Mrs. Stewart. Let me help you. We'll get a doctor. Mrs. Stewart. Mrs. Stewart! Oh, Mrs. Stewart!
Well, they got away, Jean. How's Mrs. Stewart?
Pat, I think she's dead.
What? Here, let me see. Uh-huh. You're right.
Oh, Pat, it's awful.
Give me that phone.
You see, I told you there was something weird about those ads.
Headquarters? Lieutenant Daniels, please.
Oh, what do you think they mean?
Could be a code.
A code? For what?
1 second, darling. Daniels, this is Pat Abbott. Look, you better come over to my place. Fast. The woman has been shot. Yeah, she's dead. Okay.
Pat, what are the ads a code for?
I don't know. Let's have a look at Mrs. Stewart.
Well, here's her purse. What's in it?
Yeah, a coin bag, handkerchief, lipstick. There's a ticket. It's an airplane ticket. For the plane to Seattle tomorrow morning.
Pat, will you look at these newspaper clippings?
Yeah. Well, this one says, for sale. Old chromo, picture of Vice President Marshall, second-hand, price $21.20.
Well, this one says, for sale, old chromo picture of Benedict Arnold, price $8.40. Pat, what do they mean?
Well, let's see. In the first place, nobody on Earth, except you, darling, would actually want a second-hand chromo of any of these fellas. They're advertising something absolutely useless. Something they probably haven't even got.
Oh, well, that's silly, dear. Well, then why advertise at all?
Now, these numbers, the prices, what could they mean? 8:40, 12:30, 11:15.
Pat, that could mean time, not money. Except for the fact that there's no such time as 17:20.
Wait a minute. Could be military time, couldn't it?
Oh?
That's numbered from 1 to 24. 1720 would be 20 minutes after 5 p.m.
Golly, that's right. What about the names?
Well, let's go a step further. If you're telling someone time, what else might you tell them?
Place.
That's right. Sure, you see. Taylor, Stanton, Marshall. Those could be the names of streets and avenues.
Well, suppose it's true. Where do we go from here?
Well, I know where you go.
Where?
Home.
Home? Now?
Gene, how many times do I have to tell you that detecting is a very dangerous business for you?
Well, if you think with that woman lying there murdered and a mysterious code in the newspaper that I'm going home...
I will not have you running around on these cases. Now, I said go home, Gene.
Well, of all the ridiculous...
Gene.
Yes, dear.
How long is it since anyone has spanked you?
I'm going. I marched very reluctantly out of Pat's office. After I'd been gone about 5 minutes, Lieutenant Daniels arrived. He looked over the scene and examined Mrs. Stewart. Then he questioned Pat.
Pat, I've known you long enough to be very sure you're not mixed up in this, but just the same, I'll have to ask a few questions.
All right, go ahead.
Now, you never saw this Mrs. Stewart until she came to your office today?
That's right.
Did she indicate why she picked you to help her?
Me personally? No. No, she was just impatient with the Missing Persons Bureau. Thought a private detective could move faster.
What did she expect, miracles? Then you say that she told you about her husband disappearing.
Yes.
He disappeared after he went to inquire about a little ad in the newspaper.
That's right.
All right, come on, Pat. What's the gimmick?
I don't pull gimmicks with you, Daniels. I never have. I've told you everything I know.
That would be a novelty. You know, Pat Abbott, I have a lot of respect for you. You do a darn good job. The trouble is you don't always bring the police in on everything that you're doing. Now, this time, suppose we don't play any games.
I'm not playing games. You want to check yet on Mrs. Stewart?
Yeah. One of the boys just called me from headquarters. No police record of her.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, you're stalling. You've noticed something that you're not telling me. What did she say about her husband?
Just gave me a description of him.
Height?
5'8".
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that she said 5'9" or 5'10".
Confound it, Pat. If you don't cut the clowning.
She said he was very thin. Weighed 150 pounds.
5'8", weighed 150, and was thin?
Yes.
Well, aren't you mother's little helper? What was his first name? What was his occupation?
She didn't say.
Now, that's interesting. A woman you never saw before comes in, says her husband is 5'8", 9, or 10, or maybe he's tall enough to be a basketball player. He's short and heavy, or maybe he's thin, and she didn't even tell you his name. Then somebody, strolling by, who had nothing else to do, came along and shot her. Then you ran out in the hall instantly, but you didn't see them. And all of this is because there's a little ad in the paper selling old chromos of dead presidents that aren't worth a plug nickel. Now, this hasn't been a very pleasant day anyway. My wife burnt the toast this morning. I missed the bus, and... Maybe I just ought to go home and lie down until tomorrow, huh, Pat? Maybe tomorrow will be my good news day,
I'm sorry, Lieutenant. I've told you all I know. Excuse me.
Pat Abbott?
Yes?
I'm calling to give you a little advice.
Who is this?
We'll skip that. What I wanted to tell you was very simple. Just this. Mind your own business, Abbott. Don't tell that cop anything.
Look, if you think you...
Hold on, Abbott. There's someone here who wants to talk to you.
Never mind. Get to the point.
You better listen, Abbott.
Pat, darling.
Gene. Where are you? What is this?
When I left your office, they were waiting for me in a car. They made me go with them, and I...
See, Abbott? We figured you might go poking around where you weren't wanted, so we invited your wife for a ride. We're gonna hold her, too, till this case sort of cools off.
Now listen, you
Easy,
rotten...
Abbott. Easy. Just remember, you want your wife back, mind your own business. Keep your mouth shut.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Who was that? Pat, I said, who was that? I haven't seen you this upset since I took $56 off you in that poker game last year. Now, who called?
Little Bo Peep. Wants police help. She lost her sheep and can't find them.
How would you like to get slapped with a charge of withholding information from the police?
How would you like to get sued for false arrest and maybe get busted and end up pounding a late night beat on the Oakland Bridge?
Good afternoon, Mr. Abbott.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant Daniels. I guess maybe I'm the Rock of Gibraltar type. Except when it comes to Jean. Her kidnapping threw me for a 30-yard loss. Lieutenant Daniels tried a few more times to worm something out of me, but couldn't get a word. The minute the police had cleared out of my office, I went running to the office of the Bulletin, to the desk where they take classified ads.
Yes, what can I do for you?
I don't want to place an ad. I'd just like to ask you a question.
What is it?
It's about an ad that was in your paper. You see this? Offering a chromo of Zachary Taylor.
Well,
Who placed that ad?
we don't give out that information.
This is very important. I've got to know.
I said we don't give out that information. If that's all you wanted, I'm sorry. I'm very busy, so if you please run along.
Now, look. I don't want to get into an argument. I'm just making a simple request. So will you
The
please...
answer is no. N-O.
But it wouldn't...
Aren't you going to leave? Or do I send for the manager?
You don't have to send for anybody. I don't want to make trouble.
What's the trouble, Dorrance?
Oh, Mr. Warren, this fellow wants some information. He wants to know who placed this ad.
It's this ad here, Mr. Warren. I'd appreciate it very much.
Well, let's see it. Oh. I think this ad was mailed in. To find out who sent it, we'd have to go back through our files. It would take some time.
I'll wait.
Besides, this ad is over a week old. It'd mean a lot of checking back. I'm afraid we can't oblige you.
It isn't much of a favor.
It's against our policy, too.
It means a great, great deal to me.
It's against our policy.
All right, skip it.
I'm sorry we can't be of more assistance.
All right, Mr. Warren, all right. I said skip it. Hello.
Finally got back to your office, huh, Abbott?
Now, listen, you let my
Now,
rifle...
wait. You better be polite to me, Abbott. Jean's right here in the room with me and the boys. Now, you don't want us to get angry, do you, Abbott? Oh, Jean, say hello to your husband.
Pat?
Yes, Jean, are you all right, dear? Are you all right?
You heard her, Abbott. She's fine, so far. Now, look. We called about your visit to the Bulletin office, Abbott.
What?
Aren't we smart, though? We know everything you do, don't we? You try to find out who put that ad in for the old chroma, huh?
What about it?
First you spoke to a man named Dorrance. Then you spoke to another jerk named Warren. They turned you down.
Well?
I told you to keep your nose out of this, Abbott. You're disappointing me. Now, I ain't gonna warn you again. This here wife of yours won't look so pretty if they have to drag her out of the river.
I ran back to the office of the Bulletin. This time I wasn't going to be stopped. At the classified ad desk, there was a crowd. Excuse me, what's happened?
It's the man who works at the desk, Mr. Dorrance. Oh, it's terrible.
Well, what is?
Well, he was just standing there, and then all of a sudden he just keeled over and died.
He did?
Uh-huh. A heart attack, they say.
Would you step aside? I'd like to go over there. Thank you.
Why, hello.
Hello, Mr. Warren.
Isn't it shocking? After all these years, poor Dorrance has a heart attack, and he's gone.
Yes. It's almost unbelievable. I left the office of the Bulletin and raced across town to the office of the Globe-Dispatch. I had an idea. I wasn't sure it would work. But Jean's life was at stake, and any chance at all was worth taking. I went to the classified ad department of the Globe-Dispatch, and... Now, here's what I want in the ad, please. For sale. Second-hand chromo of Aaron Burr. Price, $7.20. I didn't know, of course, if my first idea about the ads being a code was right. But there wasn't anything else I could do. Figuring the name in the ad was the street where a rendezvous took place, and the price was the time of the meeting, I advertised Aaron Burr, $7.20. And at 7:20 the next night, I went to Burr Street. It was in a desolate section of town by the river. The street was deserted, and the lamp post was being repaired, so it was pitch black. I hid in a doorway and waited. At 7:20 sharp, a truck pulled up at the corner. The driver remained at the wheel. A guy who'd been riding in the back got out and strolled around, occasionally looking up the street. After about 10 minutes, the little man called out to the driver.
I don't know where they are, Jackie. Looks like they won't show up.
Excuse me, Bud. Got a match?
Huh? Oh, yeah, sure. That's, wait a minute, I got my pocket. Yeah, here we are.
Thanks. Here's something for you. I knocked the little man out cold. Then I jumped onto the back of the truck, and imitating that hoarse voice as best I could.
Better go on, Jackie. I'll ride in the back again. They ain't coming.
The truck roared down Burr Street, switched off to the main highway, and tore along doing 70. In the back, I had a chance to look around. The truck was filled with barrels of capsules. Little plastic capsules, the kind used to make pills. I kept examining the boxes. Then I found a bag. It contained a white powder with a bitter taste. It wasn't dope, but I thought I knew what it was. In a few minutes, the truck turned and pulled up in front of a huge abandoned warehouse. I hopped off, ran around to the back of the warehouse. I pulled open the door. Slowly. I saw a rickety stairway. I tiptoed up the stairs. I tried some doors. Empty rooms, that's all. Then I saw another door at the far end of the hallway. Jean?
Pat. Oh, darling, oh, darling.
Yes, you all right?
Yes, I'm all right. They didn't hurt me. Pat, how'd you get here? Where are we? They blindfolded me until I got here.
Shh. Don't talk now. I've got to get you out of here. I know the way back. I can come here with Daniels later. Now, wait. I'll see if anyone is outside.
Do you see anyone?
Yes. The driver of a truck I used to get here. You better shut this door. Is there another way out of this room?
No, not even a window.
It's a nice spot. Well, the driver doesn't know who I am. Maybe we can bluff our way out. Does he know you?
I don't know. I don't know who brought me here.
No, we just have to take a chance.
Pat, listen. Listen, they're right outside.
Yes, now keep quiet. If we make a sound, they'll let loose right through the door with Tommy guns. I saw the driver carrying one. Now, shh.
I don't know who the guy was, boss. Just asked me for a match, and he slugged me.
That's the fella I knocked out to get in here. It's too bad I didn't sock him hard enough. I didn't have a chance to tie him up either. He must have come to and raced over here. Now, we've got to get out, Jean. We've got to take a big chance.
Anything. Just let's get out of here.
We'll have to go out the front door. And try talking fast if we meet anybody. Are you ready, darling?
Ready, Pat.
And so far, so good. Now, down the stairs. All right, now, if we can make that big door at the bottom of the staircase, we'll be all right. It's very dark outside. It's only a short run to the highway.
We're not doing badly at all. I wonder where they went.
Oh, don't leave us so soon, Mr. Abbott.
Warren.
Pat.
I didn't expect you to pay us a visit, but now that you've come, why don't you stick around a while?
Pat, you know him.
Yes, Jean, I do. Mr. Warren is the classified advertising manager of the Bulletin. We've met a few times. Last time we met, he'd just murdered one of his employees in the newspaper office, Mr. Dorrance.
Hey, this is the guy, boss. The one who socked me. Put your hands up, Abbott. You too, Mrs. Abbott. Harry, see if he has a gun. Okay.
Mr. Dorrance was supposed to have died of a heart attack. But I wouldn't be surprised if the autopsy shows he was poisoned. You get wise to your racket, eh, Warren? Using the ads for tip-offs?
You talk too much, Abbott. People who talk a lot get on my nerves.
He ain't got no gun, boss.
Tip-offs for what, Pat?
Pickups, darling. By their truck. From half a dozen guys working for them who sold them empty pill capsules on the QT. And other guys selling them barbituric acid.
You're really quite bright, Abbott.
I tasted some of that white powder in the truck, Warren. They gave me sleeping pills in the Marines when I was hurt. I remembered it.
Sleeping pills, Pat?
Yes, dear. One of the least known and biggest rackets in America today. Not narcotics. So the federal men don't have anything to do with it. Has to be enforced locally. Makes it very tough for the law and easy for the boys. Runs into millions of dollars. Sold without a prescription by bellhops and flea-bag hotels. And all-night diners by salesmen planted like bookies in business offices.
Well, I thought we'd probably have to kill your wife, Abbott. But you want to make a regular party out of it, don't you? You want to get knocked off, too. Well, we can oblige you.
You shot Mrs. Stewart, too, Warren. You were one of your pals here.
Yes, Harriet got fancy ideas. She didn't like the way we were treating her.
Yes, so she decided to double-cross you. She came to me with a lead about the ads and the story about a husband who probably doesn't exist. She figured I'd nail you while she took a plane to Seattle.
We caught up with her, though.
Yes, in my office. Then you waited downstairs for Jean. Hoping that would probably keep me off your neck.
Go on, Harry. Take them in the back. Get rid of them.
Okay.
No. Wait. This Abbott here is a smart aleck. His wife wasn't very friendly either. Never mind taking them in the back, Harry. I'd get a kick out of seeing him get a face full of bullets myself. Go on. Give it to him now. Right here.
Pat.
Now, steady, darling. Look, Warren. You can't get away with 4 killings. You pulled 2 already that you'll be picked up for just as sure as...
Yattata, talk again. Go on. Give it to those 2, Harry. We're wasting time.
Right.
Put up your hands, Warren.
Lieutenant Daniels.
You heard him, Harry. Drop that gun.
Go on, drop it. I have 20 men outside, so be smart and don't start any fireworks. They just love to celebrate the 4th a little early.
Where the devil
Where did I come from? Out of the nowhere into the here.
Well, I wasn't sure the trick would work, Daniels.
Well, it did. Good idea, Pat.
What trick? Pat, if you don't explain...
Oh, you remember the nursery book I was reading, Jean? Hansel and Gretel?
Yes, dear.
How did they show people the way to the witch's house where they were being held prisoner?
Why, they dropped breadcrumbs, I think, all along the trail as they went into the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see.
That's right. I did it with the little capsules while I was riding in that truck. I cut a hole in one of those sacks. I knew I had to lead someone to wherever the truck was going, and then I thought of Hansel and Gretel.
There's a trail of capsules running all the way out here for blocks. One of our prowl cars started following it. Figured some truck was losing all this stuff and didn't know it. Then the officers began looking around this warehouse.
Do people get so desperately addicted to sleeping pills?
Yes, very often. Then they develop barbiturate poisoning and keel over suddenly on the street. City Hospital often gets cases like that. And I know an asylum that has victims of barbiturates who went into complete nervous collapse. You see, Gene, the health department of each city is responsible for stopping its illegal use. But most of them are handicapped. Not enough men, not enough funds. So the wise guys move in and make cash. Sell them in all-night movies, sell them outside of flop houses. Yes, even pick up victims supposedly cured as they come out of the hospitals.
Well, I'll never have that trouble.
How do you know, Mrs. Abbott?
No woman would ever have trouble falling asleep after spending an evening with Pat.
the National Broadcasting Company has presented The Adventures of the Abbotts, starring Claudia Morgan and Les Damon as those popular personalities of detective fiction, Pat and Jean Abbott, created by Francis Crane. The cast included Everett Sloan, Jean Darling, Mandel Kramer, and Lon Clark. The Adventures of the Abbotts was written by Howard Merrill. Original music composed and directed by Dewey Bergman. Produced by Ted Lloyd and Bernard L. Schubert. Directed and recorded by Harry Frazee. Next week, same time, same station. Another exciting adventure in crime with Pat and Jean in The Adventures of the Abbotts.
This is the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
Welcome back. Well, once again, another one of those episodes that really could have been from today with its context. And it's kind of this very interesting contrast in the character of Pat Abbott. Because I really wasn't liking him at that moment when he was shooshing Jean out of the office with a "when was the last time you got spanked" comment. But then you see his dedication and devotion in this tireless effort to find her. And we once again get another appearance by Mandel Kramer, who we'll hear much, much later as yours truly, Johnny Dollar. And another great detective actor was on this episode as well. It was Lon Clark. Lon Clark is best known for his role as Nick Carter, Master Detective, a role he held for 12 years, from 1943 to 1955. And we're going to have a lot of fun when we get to that show, because Nick Carter is just one of those excellent classics. But he was towards the end of his run here in this performance. By the way, if you happen to have any episodes of Nick Carter lying around from after 1949, let me know. I've got complete a collection as I can find with 126 episodes, but none of them after 1949. I did get a comment from a listener that was prompted by my recent blog post on Eddie Rochester Anderson. And Nick writes in, the Jack Benny program, which I was lucky to see in reruns as a kid in rural Virginia in the mid-'70s, had a profound effect on me, both in terms of humor and in some ways race relations. I love Jack, but I wanted to be Rochester or Andy Griffith or Hawkeye Pierce. I recall regaling my parents and their little friends with my impersonations of both Jack and Rochester. "Oh, boss, come now," was a frequent retort to my dad. In the past year, I've listened to the entire run of Jack Benny radio shows almost obsessively online. And amazingly, a local station is currently running 2 Jack Benny TV shows every Sunday night. Wow, you've got a very nice local TV station. What I've discovered is quite often they just reworked a radio show, some from a decade or more earlier, and reshot it for TV, usually quite well. But it's funny to watch programs now with a firm grasp of their origins in radio. I've also been branching out to other old-time radio in the process, and I must thank you for the great detective shows and commentary. So few old-time radio podcasts give any context for the program, and it is much appreciated. Well, thank you. And he says, one show I'd like to recommend, which, like most others I discovered at archive.org, is Rocky Jordan. While not a straight detective series, it has all the elements of one, and the exotic locale of Cairo adds a certain something to the proceedings. Good stories, wonderful acting, and great atmosphere make for a usually excellent listen. Thanks again, Nick. Well, thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate the comments, and definitely I love Rocky Jordan. I think it is a fantastic show, and it's definitely one we look forward to doing. It has not only the detective elements, but a lot of the writers. One person emailed in and noticed when we were doing Jeff Regan, that one of those Jeff Regan episodes had actually been done by Rocky Jordan. Had that same writer in E. Jack Newman. Well, I appreciate so much all the comments and emails. We'll be back tomorrow with Nero Wolfe. Well, before we get started with today's episode of Nero Wolfe, I do want to let you know about Audible. Well, I'm listening now to another Nero Wolfe novel on Audible. This time it's Some Buried Caesar, which is kind of interesting because it takes Wolfe outside of the brownstone to upstate New York and involves a murder surrounding a bull. It looks to be a pretty interesting mystery. One Buried Caesar is just one of several Nero Wolfe novels available on Audible, as well as a wide variety of other books as well. You can try Audible out for free for 2 weeks, and you can even get Some Buried Caesar as a free audiobook. Go to audiblepodcast.com/oldtimeradio. Well, let's get into today's episode of Nero Wolfe, The Case of the Calculated Risk.
Ladies and gentlemen, the ringing of that phone bell means mystery, adventure.
Nero Wolfe's office, Archie Goodwin speaking. Mr. Wolfe? Yeah, he's right here. Who's this?
Archie, hang up. Don't ask questions.
You have a wife?
Archie, it's past your bedtime.
Well, I'm afraid, Mr. Wolfe, it's past his bedtime.
Your bedtime.
It's a client, boss.
That's what I was afraid of. Foolish.
Hello? Hello?
Well, why do you look so bewildered?
He's coming right over.
He says he's got a date.
With murder.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the detective genius who rates the knife and fork the greatest tools ever invented by man. The ponderous, brilliant, and unpredictable Nero Wolfe. Created by Rex Stout and brought to you in a new series of adventures over this NBC network in the person of Mr. Sidney Greenstreet.
Tonight's story, The Case of the Calculated Risk, was as strange and baffling as any Nero Wolfe had to deal with. It started late one night when a big-shouldered man sporting a reddish beard and billing himself as Dave Caffrey pushed his way in, walked up to Nero Wolfe's desk, and rocked him with this opener.
Tomorrow morning, Mr. Wolfe, I'm going to kill a man.
I beg your pardon, sir?
I'm going to kill a man with these two hands.
I've been told strange things across this desk, Mr. Caffrey. This is the first time a murderer has confided his intention to me in advance. This man you speak of.
I'm not telling you his name. I'm not telling you where I'm going to meet him. The session tomorrow is going to be private and personal. But if anything happens to me between now and then, I want you to take over.
Mr. Caffrey, do you seriously think I could assist you in a matter of private vengeance?
That's not what I'm asking. This guy deserves to die. I plan to kill him with these two hands, me, myself. But if I slip up, if he gets me first, I want you to see that justice is done.
But I assure you, sir...
I told you this guy deserves to die. Let me tell you why. Years ago down south, there were 3 men in business together, partners. Me and 2 others.
Your notebook, Archie, if Mr. Caffrey doesn't mind.
You're wasting your time, Wolfe. The names I'll use will be phony. I won't give you anything you can check back on.
We'll take our chance, sir. Please proceed.
It happened in a town about 40 miles from the place where we had our business. We'd gone there to collect some money, the 3 of us. Carl, Mitch, and me. Dave Caffrey. But all we collected was bad news. So bad that Carl hadn't even given our right names at the hotel. Said he was scared some of our creditors would come hitting up on us for what we owed. 3 of us had some drinks, and we'd been pacing around for nearly an hour. I can still remember the way Mitch stood and looked at me. And then up at Carl, when Carl suddenly pulled to a stop and came out with this idea of his.
So, Dave, you got 6,000 cash on hand. You counted it, Mitch.
Well, didn't we make it 62.40, Carl?
Whichever. We've got this 6,000 odd, plus some slow accounts receivable against debts of 38,000. With 3 of us trying to live from the business, we haven't got a chance.
Well, we ain't got much of a one, Carl, but...
It's hopeless, Dave. With 2 partners, though.
2 partners? You reckon on pulling out, Carl?
I say we cut cards for it, Mitch. Low man drops out.
Break up the partnership? After sticking together all these
Now,
years?
wait a minute, Dave. Wait a minute. Maybe Carl's right. Maybe this could work. Carl, you mean the low man drops out clean? Right now?
Right now, Mitch. Other 2 to take over assets and debts and see if they can get this thing back in the black.
Okay, Carl. Get the cards out.
Dave?
Well, that's what you guys want.
Okay, then. Here's a new deck. Shuffle them, Mitch.
All shuffled.
Cut them, Dave. Go ahead, Mitch. You get first pick. Spread them if you like.
Here goes.
6. Your turn, Dave.
Okay. 9 of clubs.
Lucky guy, Dave. That puts you in whatever Carl pulls.
I'll pull it fast. There she is.
Denise.
Sorry, Mitch. That leaves you elected.
Well, Mitch, I'm sorry, too. I guess we all had a fair whack at it, but...
Hey, wait a minute. Let me see that ace again, Carl.
Easy, Mitch. I said I was sorry,
Look,
but...
Dave.
Yeah, what is it, Mitch?
All the aces are marked. Carl, I'm going to cram this deck right down your crooked throat.
Look out, Mitch. He's got a knife.
Oh.
Carl, you...
All right. I've cut him for keeps. What do we do now?
What do we do? Look, Carl, I didn't mark those cards. I didn't kill Mitch. And what's more...
Shut up, Dave. We're both in and out now. Come on. Let's get out of here.
Now what, Carl?
Look, Dave, this is where we split up. 2 men together, easy to trace. You head one way, I go the other.
Yeah, but the dough, I got no money.
Here, I'll split up the 6,000. This is your half. Here, stick the envelope in your pocket. Now, grab that freight. Get set. I'll catch the next one going the other way. Get going, Dave!
That's how it was, Mr. Wolfe. It all happened so fast that I...
This man you call Carl, he would seem to be one of the world's choice creatures, Mr. Gaffrey.
When I thought to look in that envelope he gave me, I found $40 and a few folds of wrapping paper in it. I was mad enough to... Well, I got off the freight and intended to go back, but... Then I picked up a paper.
And read all about the murder of your friend Mitch with the statement that Carl had accused you of the crime, and that the police believed him in view of your escape.
That's it.
Classical, but not at all original.
Well, I was young then and stupid. And I'd had those drinks to start with.
And you spent the intervening years hunting down the man Carl, am I correct?
Yeah. I tramped the country from east to west, from north to south. Tramped it for years, searching for him. And yesterday I located him. He's a big wheel these days up on that 37th floor of his. But tomorrow when I get...
Yes, Mr. Gaffrey, the 37th floor of...
Never mind what building.
Now, wait a minute, Caffrey. If you expect Mr. Wolfe to help you...
I don't want him to help me. I'll help myself. But if I slip up, I know Wolfe's reputation well enough to know that he'll never rest till this rotten, chiseling murderer is sitting in the chair. That's why I've come here. Just to provide a backstop in case my dear friend of long ago manages to get the best of me.
How will we know?
You see this envelope? Read what it says.
Nero Wolfe, 601 West 35th Street, New York. Delivered to him in case of my death.
That's right. And this envelope was $500. Nearly all I've got in the world. Along with it, the full details on that knifing. Real names, dates. The proof you'll need in case I don't finish it up.
Go on.
Tonight, Mr. Wolfe, I'm going to give this envelope to the manager of the hotel where I'm stopping. I'm calling on, well, Carl. Tomorrow at noon, right after his secretary goes to lunch. If I'm not back in my hotel at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, the hotel manager will deliver this envelope to you. Is that clear?
Perfectly. But you don't think I'm going to allow you to go through with this wire plan, do you?
You can't stop me. And don't have Goodwin follow me. I'd lose him in 2 blocks. Good night.
Shall I try to tail him, boss?
It's no use, Archie. Get Inspector Kramer on the phone at once. I want the police to help us head off this murder. Nero Wolfe speaking.
It's Archie. I'm calling from the morgue.
And?
They found Caffrey's body in a subway washroom, mugged and stabbed. Wallet gone, pockets cleaned out, no envelope.
Just 2 hours ago he was here. No envelope, eh?
Gone.
Witnesses?
None so far. Homicide's calling it straight mugging and robbery.
As it well might look, except for
a guy named Carl. How much do I tell Kramer?
all of it. Ask the inspector to start queries throughout the South on the original killing.
The original killing? Look.
It's our best chance of getting a description of the man called Carr, the original killing and the partnership. Starting from, say, 8 years ago and working back to the middle 20s. Tell him to concentrate on towns on railway lines.
Putting out pictures of Caffrey and...
Pictures and dentistry. Fingerprints to Washington. Kramer will know.
And if I come across a haystack, do I keep my eye out for needles?
We are going to find Carl, Archie. We are going to find him if it takes from now till doomsday.
Mr. Wolfe, let's face it, we're licked.
Licked, Archie?
3 days now. We found Caffrey's hotel here in New York. No traceable phone calls. Not a witness has turned up on that subway washroom party. And Kramer says he's getting nowhere with those answers from the Southland.
The original story is bound to come slowly, Archie. We are asking a check on the unsolved killings of a dozen states over a 20-year period.
And what now?
You start trudging, Archie.
Trudging?
Through office buildings, through 37th floors of many office buildings. You keep trudging till we find him.
Oh, now, wait a minute, Mr. Wolfe. This is a big city, remember? I might have to go through hundreds of buildings.
This morning, Archie, the Municipal Reference Library informed me that there are exactly 34 buildings of 37 floors or higher in Manhattan. Now, when you rule out the United Nations building, hotels,
Okay. Maybe not so many 37th floors, but lots of offices per floor. Maybe 40 or 50. Call it 30 times 40, and you've still got 1,200 to start with. And you don't know what kind of business. You don't know what Carl's real name is. You don't even know what he looks like. There could be 4,000 men like him.
4,000 affluent men, Archie?
Yeah, well, all right. Caffrey said he was in the chips, though. You know, for a guy who'd been bumming around, that could mean anything from 10 grand a year up. Hey, wait a minute. That cuts your field to 1,000.
1,000 tall men?
Tall? I've been over those notes. Caffrey didn't say he was tall.
As plainly as you could ask. Caffrey was almost your height, but he said Mitch stood and looked at me. And then he looked up at Carl. Up, Archie. That makes Carl your height or taller.
Yeah. Well, maybe Caffrey and Mitch were sitting down, and Carl was,
Caffrey told us the three were standing at the time. Check your notes. I've studied them.
Okay. Maybe that does cut it down some. Yeah, it's still a lot of citizens that start checking for a southern accent.
Don't rely on accent, Archie. Carl has had many years to lose any accent he might have had.
Yeah, that's true.
And so we narrow it, Archie. A man almost surely tall. A man not using the name he was born with. A man with an unexplained gap in his past.
I ought to be able to reach right out and tap him.
You go skeptical again, Archie?
Well, it's still a pretty big haystack.
Let's see if we can't trim it some more. On these building lists I've been going over, I've ruled out for now the members of professions requiring lengthy formal training. Medical men, lawyers, scientists of most kinds.
Yeah, that's chopping it down, I'll admit that.
I'll have further eliminations as we get into it. And I'm putting Saul Pans on a second list this afternoon. Some of the credit references I'll handle by phone.
So I start trudging, huh?
You start trudging. And remember, Archie, since you'll probably be operating through secretaries, you're looking for a murderer named Carl, not for a new set of telephone numbers to brighten your winter.
Tall? Well, I don't know what you're peddling, Goodwin, but if my boss put his elevator shoes on and stood on a box, he'd still be down somewhere around my necktie. If he stood on his money, though, we'd need a helicopter to get up near his shoelaces.
Oh, Miss Jonas, do you mind if I sit down?
Why, of course not, Mr. Goodwin.
Oh, thanks. You know, I've been in 12 offices on this floor, and you're the first girl who's seen the importance of this survey first crack out of the box.
Well, I'm sort of new here, and I try to pay attention.
Oh, you're not just beautiful. You've got a head on you. Is Mr. McLean in?
Well, he's at lunch right now.
Lunch? Oh, that reminds me. Know any good restaurants up this way?
Well, I was just going to the downstairs drugstore myself, but I wouldn't say
Well,
that...
come on. Put your bonnet on and let's skip the drugstore. This meal is on the Executive Resources Survey. boss, the boil down.
Tinsley, McLean, Fernandez, Tesreau, and Kaplan. All 5 of them tall, all 5 a little misty in the background. You and Saul have done well, Archie. Very well. But I'm crossing off Fernandez and Kaplan.
Why?
The Credit Bureau report clears Fernandez, and Kaplan was on a special war job. The FBI X-rayed his record twice.
Leaving J.P. Tinsley, Carson McLean, and Philip Tesreau, huh?
I'd like to see all 3 here, Archie. Get them here one way or another. And so you do admit that Tinsley isn't your real name?
Mr. Wolfe, are you a blackmailer or what?
I'm a licensed private investigator, sir. Any disclosure you make will be kept in confidence, provided it doesn't touch on the case I'm engaged on.
You haven't said what the case is.
I don't intend to. If you prefer to explain this mysterious gap in your background at the district attorney's office...
Well, I'm using the name Tinsley because I've got an undivorced first wife out on the coast. We broke up 20 years ago, but she said she'd see to it that I never married again. And she knew where I was today. Well, I don't say I'm a saint, but she's a vindictive woman.
I see. May I have names, dates, and places starting 1924?
I can't quite understand your interest, Mr. Wolfe.
It's rather complicated, to put it briefly, Mr. McLean. I'm working in the interest of a client. Our people have found this puzzling gap in your background, and I'd appreciate such clarification as you may be able to supply.
But I told you, Mr. Goodwin, I was raised and educated in the Orient. Until 32, I was in business with my father in China.
Where you say your father died?
Died. With the Depression, I returned to New York, started this importing business in a small way, weathered through the early 30s, and I think my bankers can assure you of my standing today.
They've done so. Carson, McLean and Company has an excellent credit rating.
Thank you, Mr. Wolfe.
To switch somewhat abruptly, Mr. McLean, would you happen to remember how you spent the evening of the 19th?
Of this month?
Of this month?
Well, I could hardly... Wait. You say the 19th. Would that have been on a Tuesday?
Yes, it was Tuesday.
Well, that simplifies it. I'm nearly always at the office on Tuesday nights dictating the revisions in our weekly wholesalers' lists. Let me see. Yes, I was there on the 19th. Had a tray sent in. Miss Tunis and I worked till just after midnight.
Miss Helen Tunis, the secretary Mr. Goodwin spoke of.
She's been with me for 2 or 3 months.
Miss Tunis can confirm this dictation on the night of the 19th?
Of course. And Mr. Wolfe, your manner is so persuasive that I'd scarcely realize you're asking some extraordinary searching questions. May I ask why in the world you...
If you'll indulge me, Mr. McLean, my prying is nearly concluded. You say you were in China until 1932. Mr. Tesreau, I'll be brutally frank. We know that your name is not Tesreau. And we know that you served a prison term from 34 to 38 for arson. I'd like some straight answers.
I didn't say I wouldn't answer your questions.
The past can remain your own, provided...
Now, look, Mr. Wolfe, I've been going straight for 12 years. And this business of mine is on the level. Now, if this is a shakedown...
I'm asking where you were on the night of the 19th.
And I'm telling you I stayed in town. I ate alone. And I went to a movie. I caught the 11:35 for Stanford. And that's all there is to it.
You're denying that you were ever in business in the South?
I was born in the South, but I haven't been back there since I was a kid.
What about the arson?
I put in 4 years squaring for that mistake.
Let's start again, Mr. Tesreau. You say you were in Cincinnati in 1931.
Okay, Mr. Wolfe, 3 candidates and we're still on the 1-yard line. Our 1-yard line. Tesreau, McLean, Tinsley. No, rule out McLean. He gave references enough for those years in China. And with Helen Tunis, he's got the one firm alibi we've laid on to. Caffrey was killed before midnight.
With conditions as they are in the Far East, Archie, it would be weeks before cables came back on McLean's claims.
Claims? You figure the whole Chinese background's a fake?
I want you to see Miss Tunis again, Archie, taking all precautions for her safety. And this is one time I give you permission to ply her with all the attentions you can contrive.
Are we far enough to pull tails on any of these three?
I've got Saul Panzer on Tesoro, and Saul promised to have men on Tinsley and McLean. Pictures of the three have gone to Kramer for circulation in the South.
Oh. No answer yet from the coast on Tinsley, huh?
Not yet. For the moment, Archie, you'll concentrate on Helen Tunis.
Helen, I've got to see you tonight.
I'd love to, Archie.
Now, look,
but...
Helen, I phoned you to come out in the corridor this way because I didn't want McLean to know we're talking. Do you still say you got that new mink coat on your own money?
Mr. Goodwin, I don't know what right you
Helen,
have
if you
to...
get 5 guys to buy your stuff, it's your business.
Mr. McLean said his wife might be sent detectives around. But you can go right back to your old Mrs. McLean and tell her that I...
Easy, Helen, easy.
He was dictating to me.
You know, baby, the harder you lie, the prettier you look. But if this is a fake alibi, and if you keep propping it up, you're going to find yourself in trouble. Bad trouble. Now, how about it? Do I see you at your apartment tonight, or would you rather come down with me to Nero Wolfe's right now?
Archie, All right. I can't go with you now, and I've got a dinner date with my aunt tonight that I can't break, but I'll try to be back at my apartment by 11.
Archie. Nero Wolfe speaking.
It's Archie, Mr. Wolfe. I'm at Helen Tunis's apartment.
Well?
I could cut my throat for not making her come with me this afternoon.
Trouble?
Not for her anymore, poor kid. I got here 3 minutes ago and found her strangled. Couldn't have happened more than half an hour ago.
McLean.
Didn't Saul Panzer say he was getting a tail on him?
He was a new man, and he lost him. I should have left you on McLean, Archie.
No, we were both wrong. What do you want me to do?
Phone the police immediately.
This is 32nd Street. I'm only 3 blocks in a job from the office. What if I come back and call from there?
Come back, then. I'll phone Kramer myself.
Mr. Wolfe, I'm still kicking myself for that.
Look out, Archie.
Too late, Mr. Wolfe. Keep coming right in, Goodwin, with your hands up. No, I wouldn't try that.
McLean.
And keep your hand out of that desk drawer, Wolfe.
This time you're too late, McLean. My hand's in the drawer, and I think I'll leave it there.
You don't think I'd shoot?
I'm sure you would. But you've got 2 of us to cover now. No, Archie, don't try to draw yet.
How'd you get in here, McLean?
He surprised me after making his way in through the area way below, and of course it had to be Fritz's night out.
I caught your fat friend just 2 seconds before he could get in his call to the police, Goodwin. I overheard his talk with you from the hallway here.
My apologies for not crying out sooner, Archie.
Get your hand out of that drawer. Pull it out without the gun, Wolfe, or I'll let you have it now.
I refuse to, McLean. Seems obvious that you mean to kill us in any case.
I'm afraid that's true, Wolfe. But when you called me here and Goodwin started making dates with Helen Tunis...
Poor kid, I told her not to talk to you.
She didn't, Goodwin. I've been scared of you and Wolfe since I followed Colby here that first night.
Colby?
You knew him as Caffrey. I caught up with him afterward in that subway washroom. No, keep that hand up. And watch that gun of yours, Wolfe. When I found that envelope on him and read the letter to you contained in it, I knew he hadn't spilled the whole South Carolina story to you.
South Carolina? Would the original knifing have been taking place anywhere near Hampton or Jasper counties?
Hampton County. But our business is over the line in Georgia. Doesn't matter now.
Pity, Archie. We learned this afternoon that we were growing warm on South Carolina. Mr. McLean, may I ask what you hope to achieve by this insane project of disposing of Mr. Goodwin and myself?
I'm buying time, Wolfe. I've $90,000 in small bills in that bag there, plus a plane ticket to Buenos Aires. I've got a silencer on this gun. If you 2 aren't found till tomorrow morning, I'll be out of the country before they start looking for me.
You don't think the police will put out an alarm for you when they find the body of Helen Tunis?
Goodwin left it to you to report that. Remember?
Let's remind ourselves to be prompter on reporting deaths, Archie.
Starting with our own, Mr. Wolfe?
Glad you can take it that way, Goodwin.
You actually think you can knock the 2 of us off?
I'm about to find out, Goodwin.
One moment, McLean. You've never been a real gambler. You know that. With marked cards, of course. But you're not the man to face a sure loss now.
A sure loss?
The loss of your life. Within seconds after you try to pull that trigger.
I told you I had a silencer. You think anyone will hear the shots?
There'll be more shots than you count on. My hand's on a pistol now in this drawer, and Mr. Goodwin has a .38 in his shoulder holster.
You can't shoot through the desk. and Goodwin won't get a chance to draw.
You're an intelligent man, McLean. Vicious, but intelligent. May I describe the certainty of your immediate death if you don't throw that pistol on the desk and give yourself up?
There are two of you, I know that, but...
McLean, you must be aware that in the actual fact, exceedingly few men are killed instantly by a single shot, even from a pistol of heavy caliber. The one you hold is a .32.
And it's a .45 in that drawer, McLean.
I assure you, McLean, that neither of us will surrender the weapons we have. Should you start shooting, we'll both do our best to draw and keep firing till you're dead.
You're stalling, Wolfe. What have I got to lose by trying for you both now?
Your life? I'll correct that. The loss of some 6 or 8 weeks of your life, possibly months. Whatever the time necessary to bring you to trial and to convict you and execute you for the murders you've committed.
Suppose I cancel you out and then take my chances with Goodwin.
A better choice, but still a dubious one. I'm fat, exceedingly fat. And for perhaps the first time in my life, I'm thoroughly grateful for that. My bulk affects the calculation, McLean.
McLean, you could pull off all 7 shots and still not hit Mr. Wolfe where it counts. If you have to start, you better start on me.
You exaggerate, Archie, and I thank you for the gallantry of it. No, it's quite likely that with 2 or 3 shots, McLean might well dispose of me, but not with your first shot, McLean, and we'll not permit you many more than your first.
Look, if I promise to do no more than tie you two up to give me my head start, will you toss in your guns?
Of course not. Do I speak for us both, Archie?
Check. I say let's start it now.
Wolfe, if I give you half of what's in that bag, would you forget these admissions I've made and help on my defense?
I've told you I refuse to bargain. I think that I shall count 5. If your weapon hasn't been tossed on the desk by then, I'll do my best to get my pistol into action. Are you in accord, Archie?
Start counting.
Wait a minute, Mr. Wolfe.
1.
If I trade half that bag for no shooting and 1 hour's start, no tying up, just your promise that...
2.
All the bag for a half-hour start, 90,000.
3. Are you ready, Archie?
All set, sir. Except if you're the one who walks out of this, call up every number in my little red book, huh? And tell each girl I was thinking of her just before you got the 5.
Agreed. I resume 4.
Okay. You win.
Holy sweet Susan, it worked.
A commendable choice, McLean, for us at least. You see, I'm afraid I forgot to mention one slight factor which might have operated in your favor.
What's that, boss?
I must confess, Archie, that my .45 is in the upstairs den where I took it to oil it last night.
Holy cow, you didn't have a gun?
Why, you dirty...
Take it easy, McLean. I've really got one. Oh, by the way, Mr. Wolfe, signal's off on those women, huh? When my heart gets back down out of my throat, I'll call them myself.
I'll trouble you for a beer first, Archie. And then, if you'll be good enough to phone Inspector Kramer, you can bid him pick up his triple murderer. The one-time cutter of cards. Fortunately for us, who's never been a real gambler.
You have been listening to The New Adventures of Nero Wolfe, starring Sidney Greenstreet. Tonight's transcribed story was based on the characters created by Rex Stout. This is an Edwin Fadiman program produced and directed by J. Donald Wilson. In the cast were Gerald Moore as Archie Goodwin and Lorraine Carter, Bill Johnstone, Howard McNear, Herb Butterfield, and Vic Rodman. Next week at this same time, Nero Wolfe and Archie will bring you The Case of the Phantom Fingers. Don Stanley speaking. 3 chimes mean good times on NBC.
Welcome back. Well, I have to say, that last scene in the office had to be one of the most dramatic, intense ones I've heard on this podcast. and it took a lot of guts on Wolfe's part. I do have some bad news for those of us who are, shall we say, possessed of extra padding, that the Mythbusters found that it's not going to do a whole lot of good against a gunshot, though they tended to use some higher caliber. A .32 might have been a little bit of a different story. But what a great ending to this episode. I did actually get a comment on my personal Twitter account, not the @Radio Detectives one I mentioned. Braden says, "Man, I gotta say I love your podcast. I just listen to Nero Wolfe since I don't have time for much else, but hey, it's awesome." Well, thanks so much, Braden. We also got a nice comment on Podcast Alley, still my favorite. And I should also let you know that I've listened to and decided on another detective series, at least whether we're going to do it or not. And the series is Deadline Mystery, and I've opted not to do it. This one starred Steve Dunn, who was the second Sam Spade, and also did Danger Dr. Danfield, which I said no to as well. This one was not as bad as Danger Dr. Danfield. I think, though, if there was one thing about the Deadline Mystery series that annoyed me or didn't work for me, is that narration was used in places where sound effects ought to have been used. And so it kind of made the presentation a little clunky and the mysteries hard to follow. Plus, it wasn't that interesting in that regard. So, Deadline Mystery is a no. But we'll continue to work our way through all the series that I'm not quite familiar enough to say whether I'll play on the show or not. Well, that'll do it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with Let George Do It. Well, before we do get started with today's show, I do want to encourage you, if you've not already, to check out my wife and I's book, Tales of the Dim Night. It's a great superhero parody with a lot of homages paid to the superheroes of ages past, and it's available in paperback or in a wide variety of ebook formats. You can read more, including the first chapter and a lot of the interviews we've been doing. Go to dimnight.com. Well, let's get into today's episode of Let George Do It, Valley Sunset.
Standard of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. Valley Sunset, another adventure of George Valentine.
Personal notice, danger's my stock and trade. If you worry about your life, but worry even more about your death, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Dear Mr. Valentine, I mustn't let anyone know that I'm writing to you. But they're all busy repairing one of the winery trucks tonight, and I've sneaked off to the safety of my childhood dollhouse. They say that some people can feel death like dogs can or coyotes. Well, I know that my uncle will die sooner or later. But what if my own brother should kill him? Or if he should kill my brother? Mr. Valentine, it's like when the dust lies in the grapevine so thick you can't tell what's underneath, whether there's ripening fruit or a rattlesnake.
But there is something horrible that I can't find out alone, because after all, I am only a prisoner in this strange world. And it's signed Rachel Agaginik.
Uh-huh. Any address, Brooksy?
Yeah, well, let's see. It's on the back with a little map. The closest city is Fresno, I guess.
Uh-huh.
60 or 70 miles, care of Valley Sunset Wineries.
Because after all, I am only a prisoner in this strange world. Uh-huh. Valley Sunset.
Sunset? Valley Sunset? What do you expect out of Hades, my friend? Road signs?
Hades?
Sure. Whose hinges it is hotter than.
Yeah. Now, look, I'm sorry I flagged you down, but...
But why?
I'm happy.
I noticed you were carrying very valuable freight.
What's that?
Hello, goddess.
Oh, hello.
On a day like today, you look better than a cold beer.
Yes, well, get your foot off the brass rail.
What's the matter? Haven't I got time to say any more before your boyfriend hits me?
Okay, smart boy. Just pull off and tell us where we are, huh?
The world, United States, heaven, valley sunset.
What?
A Gajanik property. You've been on it for the last 5 miles.
Yeah, but we haven't seen the winery or the ranch house of...
You won't for another 5 miles, straight ahead.
Oh, I see. A small type farm.
Yes, indeed. The kingdom of limbo. Irrigated by the sweat of man, dedicated to the sweat of the great.
Do you ever make sense?
But of course not. I'm a poet. My name is Agajnik.
Well, Mr. Agajnik, huh?
It's a common name. Lots of us around.
Mr. Agajnik, aren't there any, muses right here on your ranch?
Women? Yes. Exactly one, dear lady. The beautiful Rachel.
Rachel Agajnik?
Mm-hmm. The romantic type, too.
Your sister?
No, indeed. Niece. But I'll tell you a tragic secret, my friend. Rachel is only 14 years old.
My childhood has passed me, Mr. Valentine. I'm not like other girls. I had to make you think I was a woman to get you here. I had to make you realize my awful plight.
Yes, your awful plight. Now, look, Rachel, you said you were a prisoner. What do we find? You live in a beautiful house. You've got one of the finest record collections I've ever seen.
But nobody comes to the
dress
house.
you have on is at least Saks Fifth Avenue.
But I don't like the color. I didn't pick it out. It isn't proper for a girl my age.
Who says that?
That's the way it was in his old country, I guess. He picks out everything for everybody.
He?
Joseph, the oldest, the head of the family.
Oh, the old-fashioned patriarch, huh?
My uncle, Mr. Valentine.
Oh, now don't tell me Joseph has black hair and is tall and has a crooked smile.
No, that's my Uncle Silvio Agajnik.
Silvio?
Wouldn't you know, the poet?
He is a poet. Well, at least he had a poem published once. Uncle Joseph is awfully proud of it.
Yeah, well, Rachel...
Silvio does lots of things. He doesn't waste his time on the farm. And you know, he's the only one who ever pays any attention to me. He's a romantic kind of person. Sort of exciting, don't you think?
Yeah, now look, you said your uncle was going to kill your brother or vice versa.
Uncle Joseph and my brother Demetrios.
But you haven't
And
seen...
Demetrios different, too. He never talks. He just works. And he hates. And he went to agricultural college.
He's what? Oh, never mind. Why? What's happened that makes you think all this?
The way they've looked at each other the past few days. Demetrio and Joseph and poor Silvio. It's nothing definite, Mr. Valentine, but I feel it.
Wait, look,
and
Rachel.
it feels horrible. It does. I'm not inventing it. I'm not lying. I don't want it to be there. It's like my music, Mr. Valentine. That record was Debussy, and it's wonderful. I love it. But I don't want to now. Listen. This is the only record like this I've got. I want to go swimming in the irrigation ditches like the other kids around here do. I want to see a football game at the Union High School. I want to be like the other children.
Rachel!
Joseph, no, don't. Uncle Joseph, please don't.
It is not good music.
Oh, Uncle.
You know it yourself, Rachel. Now stop sounding like a circus organ in a rainstorm.
I can't say that I blame her, Mr.
Young ladies are not talking to strangers.
Oh, for the love of heaven.
And strangers are not talking to young ladies. Now get out of here, Rachel. Get out.
All right, Uncle, yes.
There is a good pigeon.
So you're Joe Agajnik, huh?
Yeah.
The big boss.
The big fist. The biggest fist that ever threw a 10-gallon cask. Who are you? The name. You talk to the girl. Why?
Take it easy, Marty Joe. Just relax. We're here asking questions because, well, I'm a writer.
You're a what?
Yeah, sure, that's it. I'm interested in wineries, that's all.
Joe Agajnik, a fool, no? A writer, huh? A real writer.
Well, I'm just a...
Valley Sunset has never been honored before. Mr.
Valentine. This is Miss Brooks.
Forgive my overalls. So much dirt in the hands is bad, and dirt in the eyes is worse, but a little dirt in the soul is good. Huh? Don't you think?
Come again?
Yeah, there is music, Mr. Valentine. Music instead of a man who lifts the dirt and tends the vines. This is something to write about.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I will show you the poem. I will show you the poem in the magazine of my boy, my own boy.
Your boy?
Silvio, my baby brother. Yes, my very baby brother. I raised from a baby. Yeah. These others, they wear the name, but they are nothing. What's the matter? You think I am crazy, old farmer?
No, I don't, Joe.
Oh, then you stay. You will visit the Valley Sunset, huh?
You sure we wouldn't be in the way, Joe? You sure there's nothing else special going on?
What is important in life, Mr. Valentine? Death? No. Beauty. Who cares about anything else? Now, you will stay, huh?
Mr. Agagianek, you couldn't keep us away.
But the first one thing to show you. The poem here. My Silvio's poem. You can tell me. You are a writer.
Let me see it, George.
Yeah, he has had everything, Silvio. There must be someone to say these things that I feel, that the earth feels.
Nuts. I'll show you how the earth feels.
Hey, wait a minute.
Silvio, let me smell your breath.
Oh, dry up, grandmother. I just don't want them to know how bad it is, that's all.
Well, you don't have to.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do, Goddess. I do. It stinks. I'm smart enough to know that, but I'm also smart enough to be pretty good at cards and pretty good at women and pretty good...
No, please, Silvio. Excuse him.
Excuse me? Why should anybody excuse me? Who excuses you? Do you know what this old woman did this morning, Mr. Valentine? He fixed it so I can't leave it.
Be quiet. Be quiet. Young people must be guarded from trouble.
Trouble? Trouble? That's the funny part, Mr. Valentine. It's he who's in trouble.
Silvio.
Sure. The little man is out there now, big brother. He's waiting in his car to see you.
Why did not you say so? Excuse me, please.
Look at the lion run. Look at him. And for a man not 5 feet tall, without any hair and a pale, freckled face.
Suppose you clear that up, Buster. Who is the little man? What's going on here? What kind of trouble is Joe in?
How should I know, writer? I'm just baby brother. I don't know any little man who carries a gun.
Hey, look, your name is Demetrios, isn't it?
Yes, of course, Mr. Valentine, but I'm busy right now. My uncle goes to town on Mondays, and I've got to see him first.
Joseph? Well, I think he's talking to some man outside.
I don't care. I've got to see him first.
What says that Silvio suggests?
Silvio's a loafer. He doesn't know a wine bat from a pickle barrel. Only, why don't you two tell the truth? You're not interested in wineries. You're interested in us.
Look, all we want...
Sure, I know. You're friends of Rachel's. Okay. Well, I'm not afraid to tell you what's going on. Joe sold some property.
Oh? Well, what's that got
Family property. It belongs to all of us. It's like selling a hand. Well, a few days ago, Joe goes out on the QT to raise himself $20,000, and he...
Get back to the fields. Get back out to the fields where you belong.
Now, wait a minute, Uncle.
I am head of this family. You will do what Joe says.
And I wanted to ask you...
I do not have to explain to you anything. It is my family, mine.
One of the boys was cleaning your car up. There's dried blood on it. Hey, cut it out.
Oh, George, stop him! Oh, George, you'll kill him!
Out here. Get over, you crazy fool. You'll kill him. Stop him.
Kill him. Uncle Joseph.
Get out of here.
Uncle, he's gone. He's gone.
Get out of here, pigeon. This is no place.
What's up, boy? What did you say, kid? What's the matter?
He's gone, Mr. Valentine. It's Silvio. He's run away.
No. Silvio can't go. He knows what would happen. It was fixed so he can't run away. No, he hasn't. Silvio! Silvio, where are you? Silvio!
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. If you spend a little more money than you'd planned on for your summer vacation, you may want to tighten up the family budget. So let me tell you how RPM motor oil helps you economize. It's as simple as this. Engineers have proved that 80% of internal engine wear starts when your car is standing idle. It's the result of acid-laden moisture forming on cylinder walls the moment you cut the ignition. But the cause of this 80% of wear, known as internal engine rust, never even gets started when you use RPM. This premium quality motor oil contains an adhering agent, one of several compounds added to RPM. Because it's compounded, RPM keeps a moisture-proof oil film on cylinder walls and other vital parts, puts a stop to that high-cost corrosive wear. No wonder RPM is so popular. In fact, it's first choice in the West. Depend on RPM, the oil that stops 80% of engine wear. Get RPM at standard stations and at independent Chevron gas stations where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Now back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. Valley Sunset, where the heat and dust of September stretch for miles and miles over the vineyards of Joe Gaganic. You call yourself a visiting curious writer, but you still have a hard time finding out about the strange old-fashioned family that lives there. The Gaganics, whose apparent love of the soil is only exceeded by their hatred of each other.
Well, Brooksy, the big boy's left for Fresno.
What?
Yeah, Joseph. Business at the bank or something. Goes every Monday. So we can look around his room all we want.
Well, George, how's Demetrios?
Oh, no bones broken or anything after the beating he took. But...
Well, what was the matter with Joseph? He was insane.
Oh, I don't know, Angel, but the big guy's so upset he doesn't know what he's doing.
Hey, George.
Huh?
What I found in the wastebasket.
What is it?
It says, Dear Joe.
Yeah, let me see that.
George, it's a goodbye note from Sylvia.
Yeah. Dear Joe, so long, big brother. You'll never see me again. I've taken the $500 emergency payroll money you keep in your desk. You will never see it again either. Signed, Silvio.
Well, so he stole some money before he went. But it's only $500 and it doesn't tell us about...
No, Brooksy. Wait, look at that note again. The wording, the crude sentences, misspelling.
But, George...
Yeah, look on this other stuff. Old invoices. And the ledger's the same. It's all the same handwriting, Angel.
Joe's handwriting?
Yeah. He wrote that farewell note to himself.
But why?
Think about it, Brooksy. It's just possible that the light is finally rising on Valley Sunset. Mr. Simpson, you represent the law in this country, and fried blood on a fender could mean hit and run, couldn't it?
Mr. Valentine, a hired hand named Sudsy was wandering around on the highway. Didn't know what hit him.
Didn't you check around, Sheriff?
Would have, but up comes Joe Gaganic. Says it must have been him. Remembered hitting something.
Okay. So Joe Gaganic hit a guy named Sudsy.
That's all there was to it.
Wasn't there any trouble, any charges preferred?
Why should there be? Everybody knows Joe. Oh, maybe he paid the hospital bills and bought Sudsy a few cigars. We kept it quiet.
A few cigars. Would all that cost as much as $20,000?
$20,000?
All right, then try this one. Is Sudsy by any chance a little guy, not 5 feet tall, without any hair and a pale, freckled face? A little man who might carry a gun?
No.
Oh, Mr. Simpson, you're a well of information.
Take it easy, take it easy. Who works for him, though?
Huh?
Ty Wendell's the little guy Guy Sudsy works for.
Ty Wendell, huh?
Mm-hmm. But he's got a permit for the gun. Owns a little roadhouse out here to shake the yokels. Nice guy.
You don't like him?
Oh, I knock over his slot machines once a month. Best I've ever been able to do. Why? Got any ideas?
Slot machine. How's your luck? Three lemons. Oh, well. Mr. Wendell. Hey, Mr. Wendell. Mr. Wendell, where? Three lemons for you, too, huh?
Didn't you see anyone, George?
No, I didn't. But, Angel, the guy's pockets were inside out. His wallet was missing, only he still had on his watch and a diamond ring.
Well, George, Ty Wendell had lots of enemies who might have...
Sure, and I hope that's just the way it is. But I can't help remembering that lots of people wouldn't be knowing about a certain $20,000.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to talk to Simpson until I know where that dough is, what it was for. Because if things are what they seem to be, then the murderer was figuring on a perfect crime. And, Brooksy, there's only one way to break it.
Oh, George.
Yeah. It's to break a heart. Hello, Joe. I've been waiting for you.
Is he home, Mr. Valentine? Has he come home?
Silvio? No.
But this car here on the drive. Is that Mr. Simpson?
Yeah. He just stopped by for a visit, that's all. You're pretty late getting back from Fresno.
I stop on the road and talk to a friend.
Uh-huh. I guess you're pretty used to seeing the sheriff's car around here, aren't you?
Why not? Valley Sunset is a small world.
I guess you're used to seeing lots of police cars.
Mr. Valentine, please, I am very tired.
I guess your brother is almost always in trouble, isn't he?
Please, no.
Now, listen to me, Joe. A week ago, a guy named Sudsy was smacked on the road. It was hit and run until you showed up to take the blame for it, to hush it up.
Get away from that door.
But you don't drink. You're not careless. You would have known what you hit. It was Silvio, wasn't it? He was the one who could have been nailed for drunken, reckless hit and run, prison, everything else.
I'm going
I said, listen to me. I just wanted to know one thing, Joe. Did the guy Sudsy worked for figure it out, Ty Wendell? He's a crook anyway, Joe. Did he come around to you to ask for blackmail for $20,000?
Yeah, Mr. Valentine, I gave Ty Wendell his cash this morning.
Yeah, I was afraid it was that way.
It was the only way. But selling some vineyards to raise the money, like my arm, piece of my soul.
Yeah, that's why you finally got tough with the boy, isn't it? You said you fixed it so Silvio couldn't run away.
How else could I make something with such clay? The boy will come back, Mr. Valentine. You will see. Joe Agachinek will make a man of him. A poet of him. The things I cannot express, my baby.
Hold it, Joe. The way you fixed it. I read that letter you wrote to yourself in your wastebasket.
Of course. I must show Silvio the words that I wanted, the words for him to write.
Hey, wait a minute. You made him write a letter just like it?
He confessed to a crime he did not commit, to stealing money from my desk.
So any time he decided to leave, you could also bring him back by mailing his letter to yourself, showing it to the police so they'd be your bloodhounds.
He knew I would do it. Joe does not lie. He knew I would mail it from Fresno.
Yeah, but did you mail it?
I do not lie. The first thing this afternoon by special delivery.
First thing this afternoon. Now, the guy can't be in two places at once. So nobody'd ever suspect Silvio of...
Joe can raise funds. Joe will protect his baby.
Now, look, you got to understand something, Joe. You got to understand it before tomorrow morning when the mailman comes. There's a time when things happen you can't protect him from. You can't use that letter to...
You are a fool. The world is a fool. I got the letter.
What?
The man I talked to on the road, the special delivery. He has given me the letter. Already Joe worked fast. He takes care of his baby.
Hey, Joe, Uncle. Sheriff Simpson's inside asking questions. He wants to know where you were early this afternoon. He wants to know where Silvio was early this afternoon.
Huh? Why does he ask about Silvio?
Demetrios, don't tell him. He's out of his mind. Don't tell him yet.
What about early this afternoon?
Take it easy. He's just asking questions, that's all. Ty Wendell has been murdered.
Ty? This afternoon? No. No. No, not my Silvio. Not my baby. Silvio, Joe will take care of you. Joe will...
Bad Penny's home again, huh, Silvio?
Sure, Mr. Valentine. Hello, Goddess. They located me in San Francisco.
With the bad news.
Yeah. Too bad the stroke he had. Joe was pretty rough on people, though.
Mm-hmm. You talked to Mr. Simpson yet?
No, but I will. Ty Wendell got us.
That's right. Early yesterday afternoon.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it goes.
I thought I'd better tell you something before you talk to Simpson. Your brother mentioned he'd given Wendell something like $20,000 in cash. You see, I found the body. The money wasn't on Wendell.
Oh, I get it. Motive robbery.
Well, we had a funny thought that probably nobody knew about that money except Joe. And maybe you.
Oh, did you?
Well, it's just a thought. A guy who wanted to leave Valley Sunset but could never squeeze enough dough out of his brother might have been tempted by $20,000.
Well, it just shows how funny thoughts can be, doesn't it? Well, I'll go down and talk to Simpson as soon as I do a little straightening up.
You mean looking around, don't you?
Like for a letter, maybe?
Maybe. I know there is one someplace, in Joe's coat, probably.
How do you know?
A mailman happened to mention it. He'd given it to Joe last night.
Happened to mention it. What did you do? Check with him on the phone before you flew back?
Worth doing, I guess. Make a perfect alibi, that letter.
Look, what's all this to you, right?
That is, it would if you could find it.
What? You haven't got that letter, have you? You didn't take it off it, Joe.
Why do you think your brother had that stroke?
What? What do you mean? Where's that letter? I've got to have it. I've got to have it.
Just underestimated Joe, that's all. He's dead because he realized he failed you. He loved you, Silvio. And last night, even before I met him, he'd already torn that letter up.
No! I don't believe it. I don't believe that.
You have no alibi, baby. No alibi at all.
When the dust lies on the grapevine so thick, you can't tell what's underneath. Whether there's ripening fruit or a rattlesnake asleep in the hot shade.
Hey, Rachel, look, kid, snap out of it, will you? We gotta leave you now.
I'm all right, Mr. Valentine.
Of course you are, Rachel. Now you'll do all the things you want to. You'll swim in the irrigation ditches and go to the football game.
It's poetic, isn't it?
Huh?
What I mean is, maybe I could say some of those things Uncle Joseph thought should be said. The vines and the earth and...
Rachel, I think you can do it.
Demetrios will take care of the vines.
Poetry, beauty, and grapes. You know, Angel, I think Joe's going to have the kind of monument he'd like.
What's the weather going to be like tomorrow? Now, there's a frequent household question, and curiously enough, it's a question that Standard of California asks nearly every day in the year. They want to know what the weather's going to be like in your locality tomorrow and months from tomorrow. It's all part of making Chevron Supreme gasoline a climate-tailored fuel for your car. Yes, this premium quality gasoline is specially blended for the different altitude and temperature zones throughout the West. And it's also tailored according to the season. That means the year-round and wherever you drive in the West, you can be sure of your car's peak performance under every driving condition. Try a tank full of Chevron Supreme gasoline tomorrow. You'll notice right away how its ping-free power gives faster starts, faster pickup in traffic, and smoother power on hills. You can't buy a better gasoline for today's high-compression engines. Get Chevron Supreme at independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here is Robert Bailey.
This year's nationwide polio epidemic is the most disastrous in our history. Money set aside to pay for care of victims is being used up at the rate of $100,000 a day. Without your help, this fund will be exhausted in 2 weeks. So help America's children today. Send your dimes and dollars to polio, care of your post office.
Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Robert Bailey is starred as George with Francis Robinson as Brooksy. Let George Do It is written by David Victor and Jackson Gillis and directed by Don Clark. Also heard in the cast were Jane Webb as Rachel, Bill Conrad as Joe, Tony Barrett as Silvio, Joe Duvall as Simpson, and Clayton Post as Demetrio. The music is composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter, your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, what a performance in this one by William Conrad. Really some great voice flexibility that made him one of radio's best actors. And, of course, went on into some success in television as well. I'm actually wanting to take a look at the show he did, Cannon. I've got that planned coming up in my Netflix queue in a while in the 1970s. Of course, this one was less of a mystery, more detective drama, but it was really, I think, well done here. And Conrad made this episode work so well. Well, we do have one listener question and then a comment from Podcast Alley. Tim emails in, good evening, Adam. I enjoy listening to the great Detectives of Old Time Radio on my iPod. My son enjoys listening to the program as well, but he does not have an iPod. How can he download the programs on his MP3 player? Well, I answered him, but I'll answer a little bit on this episode as well, in case you run into this with someone else who doesn't have iTunes, or, of course, the Zune software. The easiest client I've found is Juice, and it's available for download at juicereceiver.sourceforge.net. But if you just do a search for Juice and iPodder, you'll find it on Google. You can also directly download every episode we've done right off of the greatdetectives.net page. Every episode has an option to, just a link you can click to download. So just right click and choose Save Target As. Of course, it'll be a little different depending on your browser. Thanks so much for the question, Tim. And we have a comment on Podcast Alley from Granola Girl. Love this podcast. Well, thank you so much. We'll be back tomorrow with Sherlock Holmes, and next week with another episode of Let George Do It. Well, before we do get started with today's program, I do want to let you know about Netflix. Netflix is increasing its subscribers constantly. More and more people are switching to the service because they offer a great library of videos. You get to be able to choose what you want to watch, when you want to watch it. And the instant watch option now has 170 million different devices it'll work with. You can try Netflix out for free by going to netflix.greatdetectives.net to start your free trial. That's netflix.greatdetectives.net. Well, now it's time for today's episode of Sherlock Holmes, The Adventure of the Elusive Emerald.
Kreml Hair Tonic and Kreml Shampoo present the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes, starring Nigel Bruce as Dr. Watson and Tom Conway as Sherlock Holmes. Well, here it is, Saturday night again, and time for our weekly visit with that excellent host and incomparable storyteller, Dr. Watson. I'm sure he's waiting for us in the old familiar study, so let's waste no time enjoying it.
Good evening, Mr. Bell. You're punctual to the minute, as usual.
You bet I am. When it's time for Dr. Watson to tell a new adventure he had with the immortal Sherlock Holmes, I'm not going to miss a second
Nice of you to say so, my boy. Draw up a chair, and I'll get on with tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure.
From the hint you gave us last week, it sounded like quite a story.
It was one that I shall never forget at any rate. For once, I played a rather dashing role in the case.
Oh?
And I have this small gold key on my watch chain to remind me of the fact.
A gold key? Given to you perhaps by a lady, Dr. Watson?
It was given me, my boy, by Her Grace, the Dowager Duchess of Penfield.
In gratitude for services rendered, I suppose.
Oh, no, Mr. Bell. Not by the wildest stretch of the imagination could you say that. Let's say that it's a memento of one of the most unusual experiences that the great Sherlock Holmes and I ever had. I call it The Adventure of the Elusive Emerald.
Sounds intriguing, Dr. Watson. But first of all, do you mind if...
If you have a word with our listeners? No, of course not, Mr. Bell.
Most every man today who takes pride in his appearance uses something to keep his hair neatly groomed. And how does the preparation you use measure up to this test? Look in the mirror. Has your hair that old-fashioned, greasy, patent leather look? Now run your hand back over your hair. Does your hair feel greasy, sticky, or dirty? If it does, then be smart, men. Change to Kreml Hair Tonic. This highly specialized hair tonic contains a combination of hair grooming ingredients found in no other hair tonic. That's why Kreml keeps your hair in place longer, with such a handsome, well-groomed look. When you use Kreml, you can run your hand back over your hair, and, men, it's really a pleasure. No grease comes off from your hand. And I'm sure you'll enjoy the way Kreml always looks and feels so clean on your hair and scalp. Buy a bottle of Kreml at any drug counter. Let it keep your hair looking handsome at all times. Kreml, Kreml Hair Tonic. Now, Dr. Watson, how's about the adventure of the elusive emerald?
Well, Mr. Bell, the story began on a cold morning more years ago than I care to remember. Holmes and I, our breakfast just concluded, sat on either side of a cheery fire in our Baker Street lodgings. A thick fog rolled down between the houses, and the windows opposite looked like dark, shapeless blurs through the heavy yellow murk.
A London pea super, eh, Dr. Watson?
Yes, it was, Mr. Bell. Our gas was lit and shone its flickering light on the white cloth and glimmer of china, for the breakfast table had not yet been cleared. Shortly before 11, we heard the old familiar jangle at our front doorbell, and a few minutes later, Mrs. Hudson ushered into our room Lord Morris Denby, a middle-aged man who seemed to be in a state of great excitement.
Mr. Holmes, you must help me.
I'll do my best, Lord Danby. What's your problem?
Well, and this is hard to say, gentlemen, it's connected with my mother, the Duchess of Penfield.
Oh, so you're the Duchess of Penfield, son. That's a charming woman. I met her at a house party at the Smythe Parkinsons in Shropshire a few years ago. At the time, she was kind enough to tell me
Watson,
that
don't
she
you
was...
think your reminiscences might be more appropriate at some other time?
Well, I was only pointing out, Holmes,
Quite.
that she was...
Pray continue, Lord Danby.
Well, here's the problem in a nutshell. My brother, the present Duke, is with his regiment in India. During his absence, all the responsibilities of the Penfield family have fallen on my unhappy shoulders. For a year now, I've been driven nearly insane by my nephew, Hilary. The boy's 18, and his madcap escapades have caused me many a sleepless night. But now comes the crowning blow. My mother, my own mother. has turned thief.
Dowager Duchess of Penfield, a thief? Oh, come, sir. You must be mistaken.
Would I make such a shocking statement, Doctor, unless I was sure? I repeat, she's a shoplifter, a pickpocket, a disgrace to our family.
Since monetary considerations are surely not involved, I can only assume that Her Grace is a victim of that unfortunate affliction known as kleptomania.
She is, Mr. Holmes. But how can I explain that to shopkeepers, to friends of the family, when Mother decides to pocket some valuable memento of a weekend house party? And though it's petty thefts today, tomorrow it may develop into more serious criminality. Mr. Holmes, you must help me find some way out of this intolerable situation. I'll pay you any fee you name if you can find...
my good woman. Don't argue with me.
What on earth's the commotion downstairs?
Well, I see what's wrong, Holmes.
Go back to your kitchen. Mind your own business, you stupid woman.
It's Mother. She must have followed me
Your
here.
Grace, how delightful to see you again.
Again? Who are you?
Oh, don't you remember? We met at the Smythe Parkinson's a few years ago.
Never saw you before in all my life.
Oh, it was in Shropshire. Fancied us ball, you know.
Rubbish. Get out of my way. Morris.
Yes, Mama?
Get out of here at once. This is a matter for your elders. Do you hear me?
Mama,
Get out, you Wolfe. Yes, Mama. And when you get home, wait in the blue room for me. I shall attend to you later. Yes,
Mama. Your Grace, I suggest that
Keep your suggestions to yourself, young man.
Well, really, I do feel
And you be quiet, too.
Well, I beg your pardon, Duchess. I was only good.
Can't understand a word you say.
Oh, really?
No. Now then, which one of you is Sherlock Holmes?
I am, and I
Why
think
did that idiot son of mine come to see you?
I fear that professional ethics prevent me from...
Professional fiddlesticks. You don't need to hem and haw with me. I suppose Morris told you that I was a kleptomaniac.
I'm afraid that I
Nothing to be afraid of. Oh. Either of you care for a pinch of snuff?
I don't
No,
think
thank
so.
you.
Thank you very much.
My word. Can't understand anyone who doesn't appreciate snuff. That's much better now. Now then, listen to me, both of you. This story that my son undoubtedly told you about my being a kleptomaniac is an unadulterated lie. It's all part of my children's plot to get hold of my money. They're always after me for that, especially that grandson of mine. And I'm sure he's inveigled my son Morris into his schemes, and now they're planning to have me declared incompetent.
Oh, gracious me, what a
I
shocking...
don't need any comments. Just listen to me.
Oh, sorry?
Now, how much did Morris offer you as a retainer, Mr. Holmes?
I'm afraid I'm not at liberty to say
I'll
anything...
double the fee and trouble you both to hear no more of this. That's all. Good day to you.
I'll see you downstairs, Your Grace.
You needn't bother. I may be your grandmother, but I can still walk up and down stairs by myself, thank you.
Oh, Holmes, what a magnificent woman.
Yes. Quite remarkable, isn't she?
I think she didn't remember meeting me at the Smythe Parkinson's, huh?
Quite.
Luckily, we weren't taken in by the son's story, wasn't it, Holmes?
I'm not sure. Watson, you recall that jeweled snuff box I received in this morning's post? It was a token from the King of Morania.
Yes, you put it on the mantelpiece. Good Lord, it's vanished.
Precisely. The Dowager Duchess of Penfield is so brilliant a kleptomaniac that she has achieved an unnoticed theft at 221B Baker Street.
Well, of all the amazing nerve.
Watson, we've met a worthy antagonist. Come on, old chap. Grab your hat and coat. I think we'll take the liberty of providing the Duchess with an unobtrusive escort.
Oh, Lord. Holmes, this is the 12th shop that we've been in. My feet are tired. We've been following the Duchess all day.
I was anxious to observe her technique.
Well, she's obviously had plenty of practice.
Yes. She's spent about £100 in this shopping tour so far, and yet she's succeeded in obtaining some £500 worth of goods. Brilliant work.
Look, Holmes. That small man in the bowler hat stopping her.
The shop detective, no doubt. Come on, Watson.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but there it is.
What utter balderdash are you talking?
I must ask you to come and see the manager.
Can I be of any assistance, Your Grace?
Huh? Oh, it's Holmes and his friend. Yes, you can tell this idiot to stop bothering
Well,
me.
what seems to be the matter?
I saw this here lady pick up a silver matchbox and slip it into her handbag.
Fiddlesticks. I examined it, yes. But if it's missing, this man was standing near me. Search him.
Search Holmes, but that's ridiculous.
Of course it is. Ma'am, I must ask
I
you
am the Dowager Duchess of Penfield. Now search this man.
Yes, Your Grace.
Insufferable insolence.
Your Grace, I must ask you
No,
to...
you don't. You stand here. I'm going to search you.
This is ridiculous, my good man.
Of course it is.
If you didn't take it, you got nothing to be frightened about then. Hello. What's this in your coat pocket?
Great Scott, Holmes. It's a silver matchbox.
Quite.
Come on, mister. You've got to explain this to the manager.
Mr. Holmes, I'm very embarrassed that my man brought you here.
That's quite all right, sir. It was a perfectly understandable mistake.
Yes, but you must realize that this unfortunate habit of the Duchess's must be kept a secret.
Quite so, Dr. Watson.
And I think the program I've outlined will prove a most satisfactory way of handling any such incidents in the future. You follow my plan quite clearly?
Oh, yes, Mr. Holmes. We'll have our shop detectives watching her whenever she comes in. Anything she doesn't pay for, we're to charge to her account as though they were purchases.
Precisely. In that way, your shop will sustain no loss, and the Penfield family will be spared public scandal. Yes, a very satisfactory arrangement, I think. Come on, Watson.
Yes, Mr. Holmes, a very satisfactory arrangement. Don't you agree, Hilary?
Yes, Uncle. I suppose if we can't stop Granny pinching the stuff, at least this will keep it quiet.
Hilary.
All that remains to be done, Lord Danby, is to make similar arrangements at the other shops your mother patronizes.
And in that way, sir, all scandal can be avoided.
Yes, it's an excellent plan, excellent.
I only wish that since Granny's so free and easy with other people's stuff, she'd loosen up the money bags for me a little. I'm stony broke.
We won't go into that now, Hilary. Come along, my boy. I know Mr. Holmes is a busy man. Good day, gentlemen.
Good day.
I'll be communicating with you, Mr. Holmes.
Very well, Lord Danby.
Well, I suppose that's the last we'll hear of the Duchess's problem.
I think not, Watson.
Huh?
Just before Lord Danby arrived, I was studying the social section of today's Times. Look at the item I ringed in blue pencil.
The distinguished Polish nobleman, Count Stephen von Kratzov, is holding a reception at his Grosvenor Square house tomorrow afternoon, at which time the famous Kratzov emerald will be displayed.
Skim through the list of guests, Watson. I think one name will interest you.
Colonel and Mrs. Martin, Lord and Lady Norvik. By George, the Dowager Duchess of Penfield.
Exactly. And the combination of the finest emerald in Europe and the Duchess of Penfield means that this is one reception we must not miss.
Where's your friend, Sherlock Holmes?
He's over there talking to Count Kratzov, Your Grace.
You and your friend have been following me since yesterday, haven't you, young man?
No, of course not. We wouldn't dream of such a thing.
Oh, fiddlesticks. I know you have. Oh, by the way, you said we had met before somewhere. Where was it?
At the Smythe Parkinson's in Shropshire. At a fancy dress dance.
No, the Parkinsons. Don't remember you.
I was wearing a Pierrot's costume.
Oh, really? How very original. What was I wearing?
Something in blue. Blue velvet, I think it was. You had a white wig, I remember. You looked enchanting.
It wasn't a wig. It was my own hair. My own hair swipe. And it wasn't velvet, it was tulle. And the dress was red, not blue. However, I'm flattered that you remembered me. Good night, young man.
Good night, Duchess.
Oh, good night, Count von Kratzov. Had a very pleasant evening.
Good night, my dear Duchess. I'm so happy that you honored me with your presence.
Come along, Hilary.
Oh, yes,
Good night,
Danny.
Mr. Holmes.
Good night, Your Grace.
Oh, thank you so much, Count.
Good night, young man.
Good night.
A most successful evening, Count von Kratzov.
I am flattered that so many distinguished guests were present, Dr. Watson. You were very quiet this evening, Mr. Holmes.
I was watching, Count. My eyes hardly left the emerald during the entire evening.
I imagined that you had some professional reason for attending. The embassy was most insistent that I invite you. But nothing seems to have happened. Is the gem still lying in its case on the table there?
I saw nothing happen. I hope nothing did.
Well, what could have happened? There's a stone safe and sound.
Now, please examine it, Mr. Holmes. I know you have quite a reputation as an expert on jewels.
What a beautiful gem.
It is considered one of the finest in Europe, my dear doctor. Mr. Holmes, what is your opinion?
That you've been robbed, Count von Kratzov.
Robbed?
Yes, this is an extremely fine paste replica. The Kratzov emerald has been stolen right under my very eyes.
In just a moment, we'll rejoin Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson as they try to solve the mystery of the elusive emerald. Men, it's smart to take care of the hair you've got. And I want to tell you about Kreml hair tonic. You see, Kreml is a highly specialized hair tonic. It contains a combination of hair grooming ingredients found in no other hair tonic. That's why it keeps hair neatly in place longer and gives the hair such a natural, well-groomed appearance. Never greasy or sticky. But men, Kreml does lots more than keep hair looking attractive. A quick massage with Kreml stimulates the circulation of blood right in the surface of the scalp. Notice how alive, how invigorated your scalp feels. And men, you like to rub Kreml on your scalp because it's such a clean hair tonic. Never feels greasy or sticky. Its light oils have a fine lubricating effect on a dry scalp, too. At the same time, it removes loose dandruff. And if your hair is so dry that it breaks and falls, Kreml actually helps condition the hair, in that it makes it feel softer, more pliable. So men, for a cleaner scalp, for better groomed hair, change to Kreml. Kreml. Kreml Hair Tonic. So, Dr. Watson, the famous emerald had been replaced by a paste replica?
Yes, my boy, it had.
Well, I don't have to be a Sherlock Holmes to deduce that the Dowager Duchess was the culprit.
Elementary, my dear Mr. Bell, elementary. But when the police arrived on the scene, Holmes gave no indication of our obvious suspicion. Later on, when we returned to Baker Street, I don't think either of us were in the least bit surprised to find that Lord Danby was waiting for us in a state of great agitation.
Mr. Holmes, you've helped me so far. You've got to find some way out of this mess.
You've spoken to Count von Kratzoff since the loss was discovered?
Yes. He came over to see me while you and the police were still searching the house. We're neighbors, you know.
What did he say, sir?
That for the sum of £20,000, he'd agreed to keep the whole matter quiet.
Indeed. And why should Count von Kratzoff assume that your mother was responsible for the theft?
I'm afraid he must have heard rumors of her unfortunate habits.
Do you propose to make the settlement, Lord Danby?
The estate can't afford it, Doctor. Oh, dear me, what will my brother, the Duke, say when he returns from India? What am I to do, Mr. Holmes?
Your problem has many more ramifications than I imagined when you first called on me, Lord Danby. I think if you'll allow me a few hours' grace, I can give you a surprisingly satisfactory solution to your dilemma.
I'll be eternally grateful if you can.
Well, how do you propose to do it, Holmes?
The first step is obvious. To find the jeweler who made the paste replica. Unless I'm much mistaken, there's only one jeweler in London capable of such an exquisite piece of craftsmanship. We shall call on him, Watson. We shall call on him at once.
Yes, Mr. Holmes, I made this replica.
I thought you were the only man in London capable of such brilliant work, Mr. Marcus.
You are most kind. It was one of a pair of duplicates that were ordered.
A pair, eh?
Yes.
Now the plot thickens, Watson.
Of course, you had no idea that the replicas were ordered with any criminal intent, Mr. Marcus.
Of course not, Dr. Watson. I was told that they were for a collection of replicas of famous stones, and I was paid handsomely. 25 guineas apiece for them, yes.
A small stake for so large a prize.
Could you describe the woman who gave you the order?
Woman, Doctor? It was a man. A young man.
A man? But,
yes.
Holmes, she must have an accomplice.
I think not, Watson. Though the train of thought suggested is certainly an astonishing one. However, our next move should be obvious.
Oh? What's that?
We return to Baker Street for certain necessary tools of my trade. And then, my dear fellow, we pay an unannounced visit to the Dowager Duchess and try our hands at a little burglary.
Holmes, that you?
Yes, Watson. I hope you're not too cold.
Oh, I'm frozen to death. Cowering here in these bushes under the Duchess's window. You must have been gone for 3/4 of an hour at least.
Nevertheless, it was a very profitable excursion.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. For heaven's sake, take off that stupid moustache. You look ridiculous.
And yet this stupid moustache inspired great confidence in the second chambermaid. Under the impression that I was a flirtatious plumber with prospects, she informed me that the Duchess has a small room leading off her boudoir. A room that none of the staff is allowed to enter.
You think that that's where her hoard of stolen goods may be situated?
It's worth trying, old chap. A stout coil of rope attached to the balcony above should enable us to make an unobtrusive entry.
Possibly, but where do we find a stout coil of rope?
Even a pseudo-plumber has his tools. You don't imagine this bag contains a pipe wrench or some such useless appurtenance, do you? Look.
Great Scott. A coil of rope.
Exactly. Now let's see how best we may secure it to the balcony above. But we must work quietly, Watson. If we are discovered, I'm afraid this is going to be a trifle hard to explain.
When I climb up ropes, Holmes, I realize I'm not as young as I used to be.
I thought you were surprisingly nimble, my dear Watson.
Oh, I don't like this. Supposing somebody discovers us burgling the Duchess's house and calls the police. Then what?
We shall probably go to prison. Strike a match, will you?
Right. But I still don't like it.
I like this lamp. There we are.
So this is the room where the servants are not allowed, eh?
Now, I wonder where the Duchess would... I think this wall safe gives us the answer.
Locked, of course.
Yes, but the safe's old-fashioned. Unless I'm much mistaken, the combination is an extremely simple one. It is. There we are. Look, Watson. This is Pandora's box indeed.
Great Scott, a whole collection of silver and jewelry.
And prominent among it is the King of Morania's jeweled snuff box. I'll slip that in my pocket. I think His Majesty would prefer that I retain its ownership.
Look, Holmes. There's Count von Kratzhoff's emerald.
Yes, Watson. We'll take charge of that, too. The rest of this collection doesn't concern us.
I think there's someone in the upper room.
Quick, down the rope. Give me a hand up this window ledge.
Who's in there?
Oh, hurry, Holmes. It's the Duchess.
Follow me as fast as you can.
Who is it?
Oh.
Who is it? Why, my word. Why, it's that young Dr. Watson.
That's right. That's right, young Dr.
How
Watson.
on earth did you get here?
I get here? Got here through the window.
Well, imagine that.
I climbed up a rope to your balcony, Your Grace.
You climbed up a rope? My dear boy, you took that risk from me. Oh, you impetuous boy.
Who, me? Oh, no, Your Grace. You're entirely mistaken.
Not a word, my dear boy. I know how you feel.
Oh, I'm sure
I
you don't.
realized it tonight when you spoke of the grey chiffon dress I wore at Smythe Parkinson ball.
But you don't understand.
I do. I understand only too well. Oh, but you dear boy, it can't be. Don't you understand? Think of my family, my grandchildren, my reputation.
But really, Your Grace, you're making a very...
Not another word, you headstrong boy. Now, one kiss and good night.
Oh, Your Grace, Your Grace. Oh.
My dear boy, now you must go.
Yes, I certainly must. Good night.
Good night, you foolish boy.
Scott, Holmes will be furious. Holmes!
Watson, what happened?
Holmes, she thought I was there to see her.
Hope springs eternal, eh? I trust you didn't undeceive her.
No, but she kissed me, Holmes.
A martyr to our cause, Watson. Well, it's been a most successful evening. The case is solved, and I imagine it's still quite early. What time is it?
Well, it's, Holmes.
What's wrong?
Great Scott, when the Duchess kissed me, she stole my watch.
Say the case is solved, Mr. Holmes?
Yes, Lord Danby. That's why I asked you and Count von Kratzhoff and your nephew to join me here in Baker Street.
Then where's my emerald?
Here it is, Count von Kratzhoff.
How did you make the old girl give it back? I bet it made her furious.
Supposing you let my friend explain in his own good time, young man.
Here is the replica, Count, and here's the real emerald. You will, of course, identify the stone.
Yes, of course.
Splendid. Then I'm sure you have no objection to signing this document I prepared. It relieves the Duchess's family of all responsibility. Please sign it here.
Very well, Mr. Holmes. There.
Thank you, Count. And now, Lord Danby, I shall present this paper to you.
Well, I'm tremendously grateful, Mr. Holmes, but I'm utterly confused.
Then let me clarify the situation for you. I have another visitor here tonight. Please come in, won't you?
Very well, Mr. Holmes. Lord, it's that jeweler fellow.
Now, Mr. Marcus, please point out the person who ordered the two paste replicas from you.
It was that young man there.
Me? But I've never seen you before in my life.
He was the man, Mr. Holmes.
You mean that mine...
I mean, Lord Danby, that the whole theft was part of an extremely cunning plot. Count von Kratzhoff, you joined forces with young Hilary here. You displayed a paste replica at your reception and tempted the Duchess to steal it.
Which she did, and then the Count substituted the second replica in place of the one that she'd taken.
Precisely, and insisted that I examine the stone, knowing that I'd spot it was a fake. And then Count von Kratzov attempted to persuade the family to settle for £20,000.
For the theft of a paste imitation.
Well, Count, it looks as though Sherlock Holmes was too smart for us.
Be a fool, Hilary. Admit nothing.
A confession is not needed since the guilt is proven.
But where's the real emerald?
I'm quite certain it's still safe in Poland. The whole plot was perfectly clear to me when Mr. Marcus told me of the pair of duplicates.
Yes, a kleptomaniac could hardly indulge in such an elaborate plan.
Nor would one work with an accomplice. Well, Lord Danby, what do you say?
I'm shocked. Deeply shocked. My nephew I shall deal with separately, of course.
Don't look so grumpy, Uncle. I was only trying to get a little money. Granny wouldn't give me any.
Count von Kratzov, you can be prosecuted for fraud and extortion, you know.
Only by involving the Penfield family in a great deal of scandal, I assure you, Mr. Holmes.
What do you say, Lord Danby? Do you intend to prosecute?
The Count's right. The scandal would be unbearable.
Then I'd suggest we merely request Count von Kratzov's immediate departure for Poland.
Now, don't try and stop me, my good woman. I'm going upstairs.
It's Mother.
It's Granny.
It's the Duchess, oh, Lord.
My word. How very depressing. I came here to talk to Dr. Watson, and I find his room knee-deep with my relatives. Now get out of this room, all of you.
But, Mamma...
Now, no arguments, Marlis. Leave the room. All of you, and wait for me downstairs.
Very well. Come along, Hilary.
Mr. Holmes, I want to speak to Dr. Watson alone.
Very well, Your Grace.
Holmes, don't leave me.
Well, that's extremely ungallant of you, Doctor.
Your Grace, you can speak freely, perfectly freely, in front of Mr. Holmes here.
My word. How extremely disappointing. Well, young man, I realize that I was cruel and heartless to you last night. Here's your watch.
Oh, thank you, Your Grace. What's this gold key on the chain?
That's a key to my private conservatory in the garden.
Oh, dear me.
Yes, a man of your weight has no business climbing ropes. Good day, Mr. Holmes.
Goodbye, Your Grace.
And Dr. Watson.
Yes, Your Grace?
I looked through my wardrobe after you left last night. I found that dress I wore at the Smythe Parkinson's. It was green. Bottle green net.
Watson, my dear fellow, you've made a conquest. A distinct conquest.
Never felt so more embarrassed in my life. A gold key, indeed. You know, Holmes, though the case is over, I think Count von Kratzov should be taught a lesson. Undoubtedly, he led that young fellow astray. Even though Lord Danby doesn't want to prosecute, I'm not sure that we shouldn't.
What evidence would we use?
The replica emerald, of course.
You seem to forget that the Dowager Duchess of Penfield has just left the room.
What? You mean she stole it again?
Yes, Watson. I'm sure that our evidence will shortly be reposing in that small room off her boudoir. And I have a strong feeling that not even your love for British justice will get you there again.
Before Dr. Watson gives us a hint about next week's story, girls, those famous $1 Million Powers models you see on magazine covers always have to keep their hair shining bright with highlights. Now, here's how they do it.
We glamour bathe our hair with Kreml shampoo. And ladies, I must say, Kreml shampoo brings out all the hair's natural glossy luster and sheen. More than you may dream ever possible. It leaves the hair simply radiant.
And Kreml shampoo is one shampoo you can buy today that doesn't dry the hair. In fact, it has a beneficial oil base which actually helps keep the hair from becoming dry.
Yes. And Kreml shampoo leaves the hair so much softer, silkier, and holds a wave better.
Ladies, buy a bottle of Kreml shampoo at any drug counter. See how easy it is to glamour bathe your hair to a vision of beauty. Kreml, Kreml shampoo. And remember, a bottle of Kreml hair tonic makes a fine addition to that Christmas stocking. Now, Dr. Watson, what about next week?
Well, now, next week, Mr. Bell, I shall tell you a strange adventure in which Sherlock Holmes and I fought a losing battle to prevent the murder of a man who, curiously enough, was already on his deathbed.
Tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure was suggested by an incident in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's story, The Musgrave Ritual. Nigel Bruce appeared by permission of California Pictures. Tom Conway through the courtesy of Eagle Lion Pictures. This is Joseph Bell speaking for Kreml Hair Tonic and Kreml Shampoo and inviting you to be with us next week at this same time when Dr. Watson will tell us about the adventure of the Grand Old Man. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
Welcome back. Well, this was a fun episode. I had a pretty good idea that the nephew may have been involved in this in some way. But the character of the Duchess really made this episode work. And it was, I guess, a little bit of a lighter fare, particularly after yesterday's big drama. These type of episodes always represent a really nice change of pace. Well, we do have one listener message. William writes in, hey, he says that he's behind and he just got to the last Basil Rathbone episode of Sherlock Holmes, which means at the time of this recording he's about 8 or 9 weeks behind. And he writes, I'm confused on something. I have a vague memory of an episode released very early in your podcast in which Rathbone gives a farewell message to the audience. I forgot what that was and figured it was a bonus preview of the last Rathbone episode that you decided for whatever reason to give us away in advance. But it turns out in the final episode the farewell address doesn't exist. Hope you can clear up my confusion. Thanks. I believe the episode you're referring to is The Retired Colorman. And that was actually at the end of the 1939-40 radio season for Basil Rathbone. He didn't have any idea that the show was going to be brought back for another series in 1940-41 and then another one in 41-42. He had no idea he was going to do nearly another 200 episodes of Sherlock Holmes after that and another 12 movies. So it was just to end the 1939-40 season, which as far as Basil Rathbone knew, that was it. Thankfully for the rest of us, he turned out to be wrong. Well, also I do have an announcement. We're going to have our 350th special coming up on Saturday. It will be The Mask of Demetrios, the Screen Guild Theater presentation, and our star. This is really going to make this episode unique. It features as our star in this detective story, our hero, Peter Lorre. So be sure to listen to that on Saturday. And of course, tomorrow is yours truly, Johnny Dollar, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Sherlock Holmes. Well, before we do get started, I want to remind you about Johnny Dollar Air. Johnny Dollar Air is the Great Detective's link to Priceline. There you can name your own price on hotels, rental cars, airline tickets, cruises, and even more, or choose from published fares. And your purchase helps to support the great detectives of old-time radio. So as you make your travel plans in the new year, remember JohnnyDollarAir.com first. Well, now let's get into today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, the Jarvis Wilder matter.
From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
This is Mitchell Kendall, Mr. Dollar. You called my office?
Oh, yes, Mr. Kendall. I'm an insurance investigator from Hartford, Connecticut. I was sent out here to look into the Jarvis Wilder killing by the company that holds the policy on his life.
Oh, yes. But haven't you called the wrong lawyer, Mr. Dollar? I'm defending Mrs. Wilder, not prosecuting her.
I understand that. I'm not a prosecution witness, not yet anyway.
I'm glad to hear that. Insurance money had nothing to do with the situation, Mr. Dollar. He killed him in self-defense.
Edmund O'Brien in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office Britannia Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Jarvis Wilder matter. Expense account item 1, $150.50, airfare and incidentals between Hartford and Farmington, New Mexico. It was shortly after noon when I reached the drowsing western town. I checked into a hotel and read in the local paper that the county grand jury at any moment was expected to indict the widow, Mrs. Alma Wilder, for the murder of her husband. I contacted her lawyer by phone and a few minutes later walked into his office.
Well,
Well, Mr. Dollar, you've had quite a trip.
How are you, Mr. Kendall? Yeah, it's a lot of miles from Hartford. Not too many hours these days.
Sit down.
Thank you. Well, I read the papers. The indictment comes any minute, huh?
Yes, it didn't take long. From arrest to conviction with as little cost to the taxpayer as possible.
Yeah.
That's the way they like it. Not that there's anything wrong with the way things have been handled, you understand.
I haven't gotten too many details.
Alma, Mrs. Wilder, confessed when she was arrested. Confessed again at the inquest. That was only yesterday. Also only a formality.
Why the indictment, then? Why doesn't she plead guilty and get it over with?
Because I won't let her. I want a trial. Because I'm going to get a not guilty verdict for her. On the grounds of self-defense and temporary insanity.
Those grounds have sprung a lot of widows, I guess.
Do you object to that?
No, not at all. I hoped you'd tell me she's innocent. A lot of money tied up in the policies for Jarvis's brother and his estate. None is due her.
I wish I could help you on that. Were you planning on going out to the ranch?
Yeah, I thought I might. Why?
I wanted to warn you about what kind of people they are.
What kind are they?
They've been the most hated people in this part of the state for 2 generations. Russell is a twin brother, you know. And he has not only the appearance of Jarvis, but every single bad quality. Selfishness, cruelty, conceit.
Russell has a wife, too, hasn't he?
Yes, Rosemary. And if she shoots him, I won't be surprised. But I'd advise you to be careful if you're going out there. Don't push too hard. They like to run people off their property.
I'll watch it, thanks.
Yeah. Just what do you expect to accomplish, Mr. Dollar?
I've got to make a report, that's all. Murder, it's routine. If you still have any idea I'm working with the prosecution to set up a motive for your client and turn it into a first-degree charge, forget it. I'm not.
Well, they've been awfully quiet, and I've been practicing law long enough to develop a suspicious mind. It was nice to meet you.
Thanks a lot for the help, Mr. Kendall. I'll probably see you again before I leave. The Wilder Ranch was about 15 miles out of town. By report, some 5,000 acres and cattle range. I wheeled a rented car up a road that led to a large house resting on a knoll among a few pine trees. There were some outbuildings, and finally a grizzled character who got up from a bench to stop me as I neared the house.
You got business here?
That's right.
Well, you'll have to wait. Ain't nobody at home. What kind of business?
Nothing to do with ranching. My name is Dollar. I am here from the east to get a report on the shooting of Jarvis Wilder.
What's that?
I said I'm from the east.
What's your interest in the trouble?
And I've been hired by an insurance company to get a report on it.
Where'd you say you was from?
The east, Hartford, Connecticut.
Oh. My folks come from thereabouts. Come west in the 80s. You heard of the Shrams back there?
No, I don't think so.
My daddy had 6 brothers, so some of their kin is still around. Hazardville is where we sprung from. You heard of that?
Yeah, it's in the northern part of the state, isn't it?
On the Scandic River. It's marked on the map.
Yeah, I know the place. Mr. Schramm, I take it you work here on the ranch?
For more than 40 years. Worked for the old man before Jarvis and Russell was born.
Where were you the other night when Jarvis was shot?
I got a cabin to myself. That's it over there. That's where I was.
Could you tell me what happened as far as you're concerned?
As far as I'm concerned, sit down.
Sure.
I'm an old man. I lived through some right troublesome times. Seen a lot of men get killed. And I always sort of figured I stayed healthy because I never meddled with nobody's business, right or wrong.
I'm not sure I know what you're driving at. Are you advising me to stop meddling?
It ain't my place to advise you, young fella. Besides, I ain't smart enough. You ask me as far as I'm concerned. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know what happened.
I still don't get you. You're telling me that other people don't know what happened?
It ain't my place to tell you anything.
I didn't come here to investigate the murder. All that's been done, and it's in the hands of the authorities. Jarvis's wife confessed.
Well, you can wait here for Russell and his wife. I got chores to do.
Now, wait a minute. That was it, wasn't it? You thought something had been uncovered and that I'd come to look into it. Isn't that it, Schramm?
It don't concern me.
Yes, it does. Is there a possibility that Alma Wilder did not kill her husband?
She confessed, didn't she?
That's not what I asked.
She said she killed him, and I reckon she knows better than anybody else, don't you? I ain't got time to talk no more. I ain't got chores to do.
All right, Schramm, I can't hold you, but I'll have to go to the police with this.
Now, Now, don't go stirring up a lot of trouble, young fella. Don't stir it up. If you do, I got a feeling you're going to be sorry.
If it's there to be stirred up, I'll have to do it. And I guess it's there, all right. But I can make a deal with you, Schramm.
What deal?
You talk to me and I won't go to the police. As an insurance investigator, I'm in a position to make a deal like that legally.
All right, young fella. You want to grab it by the tail, you can. It ain't much for certain, what I saw. I heard Jarvis yelling at her. That's what woke me up. When I heard the shot, I jumped for the door. It was light enough to see, and they was both laying on the ground.
They'd come out of the house.
Yes. And it come over me when I saw him that she didn't shoot him, 'cause she was laying on her belly with her feet toward him, like as if that's where he'd knocked her.
Well, that wouldn't mean much, would it?
I told you it wasn't much for certain. But when I got to where she was, she didn't have no gun. It was on the ground next to Jarvis.
Where was everybody else?
They come out of the house, Russell and his wife, and I got out of sight. It stayed in my mind that Alma didn't kill him, till she said she did.
Is that all, Schramm? You telling me everything?
That's the whole of it. The way she was laying and where the gun was. I got there fast, and it come to me that she didn't shoot him. What are you figuring on doing?
Not sure. I'll see what I can make out of it. Thanks for telling me. I'm going back to town. You can count on my confidence, but if anything develops, I may have to talk to you again.
You ain't going to stay till Russell and his wife come back?
After talking to you, I think I'd better get to them later. And if you don't feel like it, you don't even have to tell them I was here.
I won't. It ain't my business that you come, and it ain't their business that I talk to you.
It was little enough to go on, certainly. Back in town, I approached the authorities on the basis of wanting a routine report. The investigation was no more thorough than could be expected. A confession naturally would do away with the usual need for examination. There were photographs to record the position of the body, etc. Results of ballistic comparison tests to establish the fatal weapon, a .30-30 rifle. That was about all. The autopsy report hadn't as yet been added. I debated on where to go from there and decided against Kendall, the defense lawyer. I got permission to visit the cell of the confessed murderers. Alma Wilder was a slight, well-formed brunette of 24. She looked older than her years, but she would have been quite beautiful under different circumstances.
I don't understand why you've come to see me, Mr. Dollar. I told them all how it happened. Didn't you talk to them?
Yes?
And why have you come to see me?
I read your confession. I guess I was curious about what kind of a woman could make such a calm statement about killing her husband.
It was done and finished. There was no other way to say it.
I'm curious about what kind of woman could be driven to the point where she'd do such a thing.
If you read it, you know. I'm the kind of a woman I was. The kind of a woman he made out of me.
In your confession, you said he'd been cruel to you. What kind of cruelty did you mean?
I won't talk about it.
Physical cruelty?
Yes. I won't talk about it. Why do you want me?
I'd hope maybe you'd want to talk to somebody that might help you.
I told all the truth I'm going to. I won't tell anybody about my life with him. I went through it, and now it's finished. I won't talk about it.
All right.
The time I've been here alone. The time since I killed him, I've been happier than I have for 3 years. It's the kind of a woman I am now. I'm happy now.
I hadn't noticed. But I really wasn't after that part of the truth. You hated your husband, and that's enough. What about the twin brother? Do you hate him?
What do you think of that, man?
Do you?
Yes, I hate him. I hate him the same way I hated Jarvis.
What about the sister-in-law?
I never thought much of anything about Rosemary. Just when he brought me to that house, she seemed like some dead person. I should have known then what it was going to be like.
Wasn't there anybody you liked out there? Or who liked you?
What?
Any of the men who worked there?
I never saw them. They weren't allowed in the house, and I wasn't allowed outside alone. Why?
I'm asking these things because I don't know if this confession you made will stick.
What?
Alma, right now only you know whether or not you really killed your husband.
Yes, I did.
If somebody knew you and felt sorry for how unhappy you were, He might have killed him.
There wasn't anybody.
If somebody thought enough of you to do that, you could be thanking him with your confession. It would be a noble gesture, I suppose, but if that is the case, it's going to come out.
It wasn't.
You could save everybody a lot of trouble if you'd tell me.
It wasn't that. Nobody would do that to me. I didn't know anybody. I killed him because I hated him, and I was trying to run away, and he was trying to stop me. Don't say any more.
More what?
Any more looking for things.
Why not, Alma?
Because we don't have to. I killed Jarvis. Nobody else did. Nobody had to. Because I killed him. He was trying to run away, and he wouldn't let me. He was going to take me back to that house. I couldn't go back. Please. Please let me stay here alone.
You better sit down, Alma. I won't bother you anymore.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Wolfe.
We will return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. There's one married couple you can always depend on for fun on Saturday evenings, and to invite them over is as easy as staying tuned to CBS. They're Lucille Ball and that man she calls my favorite husband. You don't have to get involved in the strange predicaments they do. All you have to do is sit back and laugh at the results. How's for asking them in this evening? Lucille Ball and my favorite husband will be waiting on most of these same CBS stations. Now, with our star Edmund O'Brien, we return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yes, come in. Well, Mr. Dollar.
Hi, Mr. Kendall. I didn't know whether you'd be in your office or not.
5 o'clock? Oh, yes. I sometimes stay in the office until 8 or so. I'm a single man. No place to do any homework. Sit down.
Thanks.
Well, I see you escaped the Wilder Ranch without loss of life or limb.
Yeah, I made it all right. Nobody was there.
Perhaps you were lucky. Did you talk to Crutchfield?
Who?
Crutchfield, prosecutor.
Oh, I didn't even know who he was. No, I haven't seen him.
Would you like a whiskey?
Yeah, thanks. I think I could stand one.
Good.
Oh, I went to see Alma Wilder.
Oh?
What's the matter with her?
Well, just what do you mean? Oh, will you take this neat?
Yeah, that'll be fine. I mean, how could any woman live like a prisoner with a man she hated for 3 years, wasn't it?
3 years.
This is the 20th century. Nobody has to put up with anything like that. Why didn't she leave if it was that tough?
There you are.
Thanks.
I believe she did try to leave one other time, and evidently was discouraged from trying again. At least that's what she told me.
What?
That she was beaten.
It's hard to believe.
I know it. So was the case that broke in the papers last year of the man who'd been locked in a room for 14 years, remember?
Yeah, that's right. Well?
Shall we toast the human race, Mr. Dollar?
Let's not bother. Mr. Kendall, did you ever give a thought to the possibility that Alma Wilder could be innocent?
What?
I mean actually innocent. That somebody else could have killed her husband.
Mr. Dollar, if you've come into any information pertinent to this case, I want to know about it.
Well, it's not quite information yet, but maybe it will be.
What was its source?
I can't tell you that now.
Why not?
Came to me in confidence. I've got to keep it that way. But I faced Alma with it. The way she reacted makes me think that there's something to it.
What'd you say to her?
I asked her if somebody we don't know about got rid of her husband for her.
How'd she answer?
Naturally, she said no. And I don't believe it.
Has anything you've learned pointed to the identity of this person?
No.
Well, until we can be more specific, this is worthless as testimony.
Yeah, I know that.
I'd give anything to produce a witness that would blast Crutchfield's case from here to the state capitol. Yeah, but there's too much to hope for.
From here? Who knows?
But her confession, a signed statement, a matter of record. Obviously, you're going to follow it up.
Oh, sure, I'll have to now.
Would there be any way to keep the whole thing confidential? Without interfering with your work, of course.
I don't know. We'd have to see.
Of course. Well, it's too much to hope for. Won't start impaneling a jury until day after tomorrow at the earliest. If you're making any progress and need more time, let me know. I can delay that.
All right, I will.
You ought to be congratulated, Mr. Dollar. However you came about this possibility.
Case of plain fool luck, as a matter of fact.
No, don't say that. You put us in the back seat. A greenhorn. We Westerners don't like that, you know.
I turned in early, and the next morning I looked up the arresting officer in the Wilder case, the man who had supervised what little work had been done on it. As not only a greenhorn, but a Johnny-come-lately, I expected a lot less cooperation than I got.
Well, I'll be danged. I don't know what to make of that. She's a queer one, all right, but I never thought of nothing like that.
Maybe there isn't a thing to it, but... Well, how did she act that night?
Well, she was kind of numb when I got out there, acted dazed. She didn't talk till the next morning. Russell, that's the brother, says he was an eyewitness. His wife didn't see nothing, and an old-timer that works out there says he didn't either.
I suppose it's pretty late to run a paraffin test on her, isn't it?
Well, we can try. I don't hold much by 'em myself when you're trying to prove somebody didn't fire a gun. When you want to know did they, then they're all right, I guess. We'll test her, though.
And the rifle?
Yeah, I'll send that back through again. Got her prints off of it, but we'll see what else.
I know this is a lot of trouble.
No, we need nothing. We don't get many like this, and to tell you the truth, I sort of enjoy trying to work out these things.
It was about 10:15 when I turned into the Wilder Ranch Road. Passing the outbuildings, I looked for but didn't see the old man Tram who'd been there the day before.
You got business here, mister?
Yeah. Are you Russell Wilder?
I don't remember asking you to come. I don't do business with anybody I don't know. I think you better get back in your car and drive on out.
I think you'll talk with me, Mr. Wilder.
What about?
The Britannia Life Insurance Company sent me out. A few things to take care of on your brother's policies.
You aren't the salesman we bought from?
No, I came out from Hartford, Connecticut.
Why'd you come all the way from there?
There's quite a bit of money involved. Company wants to be sure everything's in order.
Jarvis and I kept our own books. Everything's in order.
There seem to be a few loose ends to take care of.
Not that I know about.
I understand you saw your brother's wife kill him.
I saw it.
That's what you told the police, but it's not true.
Maybe I didn't hear you.
Sometimes it doesn't do any good to throw your weight around, no matter what kind of reputation you got for being rough. This is one of those times, Wilder. So take it easy.
Then you better get out of here. Get off my land.
You can put me off. It won't do you any good. Murder doesn't brush off that easy. And you're in this one up to your neck.
Say what you got to say.
I said it. You didn't see your brother get killed. You know it, and the police are working now to prove it.
I saw it.
What were you doing outside at 11 at night? Didn't the sound of the shot bring you out?
She killed him.
It's not the open and shut case you thought they had against her. Why did you lie about seeing her shoot him?
Didn't make any difference. I do things the way I think they ought to be done. You got no right to ask me questions.
I don't have to ask you anymore. I've found out all I want.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Let go of me, you big... What do you want?
She killed him. It was the same as if I saw her. They know she killed him.
No, they don't.
She said she did.
Now they want to find out why she said it. She's not the only one in the picture anymore. You're in it, too. You could have done it.
Kill my own brother?
Your reputation says you could have. You're mean, full of hate. Both of you seem to get a lot of satisfaction out of kicking your wives around. If that's what passed for love in your marriages, what can you expect people to think about the association between you and Jarvis?
You don't kill your brother.
Why not? For the insurance money and the ranch?
I'll kill you if you don't stop talking like that.
You know, Wilder, I think you would. I guess that tells me everything I wanted to know. How are you, Alma?
I'm all right.
Just been out to the ranch.
I'll never see it again.
And I finally met your brother-in-law.
Or him again.
How did you happen to marry Jarvis?
Because my friends were all married. I wanted to be. I was dumb enough to believe his promises. He could be different when he wanted to be. A long time ago, anyway.
The rifle you shot him with, was it his?
Yes?
But you knew where he kept it, huh?
Yes, in the bedroom.
He kept it loaded?
Yes.
And you took it when you tried to sneak out of the house.
Yes. I had my mind made up to kill him this time if he tried to stop me.
He was asleep, and you got up.
And got dressed. Shirt, and Levi's, and some shoes.
He didn't wake up while you were dressing? What if he had? Were you near the rifle?
Yes.
Was there a cartridge in the chamber?
I don't know very much about them. I think so.
You ever shot the rifle before?
One like it, a long time ago.
How did you cock the rifle? With the lever or with the hammer?
What?
When you shot him, did you cock the rifle with the hammer or the lever?
I'm not sure now. What difference does it make?
A lot of difference. You'd cock it one way if a cartridge was in the chamber, and the other way if you had to bring one up from the magazine. You know that.
Yes.
Well, which way?
I don't remember, and it doesn't make any difference.
Yes, it does. One way would have left an ejected cartridge on the ground, and the police would have found it.
They didn't ask me these questions.
They didn't have any reason not to believe your confession.
It's true.
Did Russell see you kill your husband?
Yes.
Did he tell the police he saw you?
Yes, he said she killed my brother. I'm a witness. I saw her. He said that.
He was lying, wasn't he?
No, he saw me.
He told me he was lying.
No, he didn't. He saw me. Stop
He didn't see you. He didn't see you because you didn't kill him.
I did.
Did Russell kill him? Did he? He could have. Come on, tell me the truth, Alma.
I can't stand it.
Tell me the truth.
Mr. Dollar.
Huh? What is it?
Officer Dandy sent word he wants you to come over.
Can't it wait?
He says it's mighty important and you better come.
All right. It wouldn't have to be so rough, you know, Alma. What was it, do you know?
I'm not certain. Something about the rifle they was working on.
I think we did her, Dollar. I think we did her.
I hope so.
Here, look, right here. Now, this is the murder weapon. Been bothered a lot, but look at that butt plate.
Some dirt, huh?
Yeah, jammed into the ribbing on the plate and into the indentations for the screw heads.
More on the one side.
We got that covered, too. Now, you told me how she was lying with her feet towards the deceased.
Yeah?
Well, that figures in, too. And I called back the coroner about some marks they found in Jarvis's arm. Teeth marks. Here, you see?
Yeah. Done a lot of work, Dandy.
Now, next time, I won't wait. Anyhow, we didn't have a Marlin rifle like the murder gun, but it didn't make no difference. We took one of our Winchesters out on some dirt. We sort of guessed at the angle to get more dirt onto one half of the plate than the other, like that Marlin has in it.
That's it, Dandy. You've got it.
Yeah, we jammed the stock on the ground and pulled the trigger. The recoil pushed the butt plate into the ground, and we got dirt in it about the same as the Marlin.
That's good work. Say, could we phone Mitchell Kendall? I promised him he'd be in on this. Officer Dandy and I waited 20 minutes for Kendall outside Alma Wilder's cell. Then we went in without him. It took her a while to realize how much we knew now about what had happened.
Why do you want to keep on saying that, Miss Wilder? It ain't true. It can't be.
You didn't know anything about that rifle. You didn't have it when you left the house. Jarvis had it when he came out after you, didn't he?
I'm scared. I don't know what happened.
We can tell you. He tried to stop you outside with a rifle. It was cocked.
I don't know.
We do, Alma. He tried to stop you and you bit him. He threw you with one arm and the rifle fell from the other. It went off when it hit the ground.
Everything fits in. You were lying in such a way you couldn't have shot him and got there.
Nothing you can say now will change it. We know what happened. It's true, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it's true.
Why didn't you tell us?
You made a false confession and stuck with it. What made you do that? What were you afraid of? Were you afraid of Russell?
I was afraid I'd have to go back to that house.
You mean it's better to go to prison?
Yes, I wouldn't have died for it, would I? But I will now.
Why should you, Alma? What do you mean?
He said I would. Russell said I would. He said, you killed my brother. I'm a witness. I am a witness before the law. And if they don't kill you, I swear no matter where you go, I will. And they will. That's the kind of men they are. When they say it, they can do anything. Oh, please. Please, you've got to let me stay here. Alone.
Expense account item 2, miscellaneous, $185. Item 3, same as item 1, transportation back to Hartford. Expense account total, $540. Remarks? No pleasant ones. The girl who'd reached the point where prison seemed better than what we call freedom is giving up both for a hospital where they hope she'll improve. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Doud with music by Wilbur Hatch. Edmund O'Brien's latest picture is a Paramount Picture production, The Redhead and the Cowboy. Featured in tonight's cast were Parley Bear, Tim Graham, Bill Conrad, Herb Butterfield, and Mary Lansing. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. This is Dick Cutting inviting you to join us next week at this time when Edmund O'Brien returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
There have been some changes made, and it's faster, it's funnier, it's got new life and a brand new punch because Jan Murray's taken over. What show is this? Why, CBS Saturday Night Musical Quiz, Sing It Again. That hour of melody, mirth, and money that's heard on most of these same CBS stations. Yes, Jan Murray is your new host. Be sure to hear the new Sing It Again with Jan Murray this evening on CBS. Stay tuned now for Von Monroe's Caravan, which follows immediately on most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, where you laugh at Jack Benny every Sunday night, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. This was a fascinating episode because of the year that it was released in, 1951, and that it dealt with domestic violence in a way that you just didn't typically see on radio detective shows. This kind of real sense of fear and victimization that was portrayed here. Really, it was a great drama. And it had a good twist in terms of the death turning out to be an accident. Now, accidental deaths are underrepresented in the world of mysteries, partially because it's a challenge for the writer, because you don't have an easily identifiable villain. But in this case, you have two villains, one alive and one dead. So this was a top-notch piece of writing and great performance by Edmund O'Brien and the crew. And, of course, we once again hear William Conrad for at least the second time this week as part of our programming. I would, of course, be remiss if I didn't mention that we do have some lost episodes between the David Rocky matter and Jarvis Wilder. In fact, there were 4 lost episodes: the Weldon Bragg matter, the Monopoly matter, the Lloyd Hemmerly matter, and the Vivian Fair matter. And so now we are resetting to February of 1951, with next week's show actually being from March. Got a comment here from Darlene, who writes, "I've been a fan for more than a year now, and I truly enjoy your commentary, which adds a lot to the listening experience. However, at the end of this episode," this is referring to episode 335, the one we did 3 weeks ago, you made a remark about an anachronism when Johnny said he'd been a Pinkerton agent. You said the Pinkerton Detective Agency had its heyday in the 1920s and was long gone before Johnny Dollar's time. No, not so. The Pinkerton Agency is alive and well and now operating as Pinkerton Consulting and Investigation. Here's a link to their website. She says, "More than 20 years ago, I had occasion to work with the Pinkerton agent several times while I was handling sensitive issues for the company I worked for then. They have offices in every major city and remain the efficient and dedicated team that the original Alan Pinkerton envisioned." Well, thanks so much for the comment, Darlene. What I meant, I was aware the Pinkertons were in existence, still today, though as kind of under, having been purchased by another agency at this point. However, they moved away from a lot of the detective work that they had done in the past, particularly for a lot of companies, because of Congress in 1937 passing some anti-Pinkerton laws. And as Darlene said, they have dropped, actually, detectives from the company's title, and that's been the case for years. So I was aware that it was existing. I was doubtful that it would be somewhere where Johnny Dollar in, say, 1940s or just after World War II might go to start his detective career. And, of course, my main point in saying that was that I bet this was adapted from an episode of Sam Spade that perhaps is a lost episode, and I still think that's probably the case. But thanks so much for the email and the fascinating info on the Pinkertons. Got a few more comments. These from Podcast Alley. Love this podcast. If you enjoy listening to books on CD and quality, wholesome programming, then this site is for you. Thanks, Adam, for all the hard work and extra commentary. And I like The Great Detectives a great deal. Box 13 is my favorite. Well, Box 13 always will have a special place in my heart, and a special place in our email address, which does remind me you can send your emails to box13@greatdetectives.net. I do want to let you know, we've gotten a couple emails in past months about writing a book. And I came up with an idea from a book. It's different than what some people have suggested. But I'm working on a book right now. I'm close at this point to having finished writing chapter 1. But the thought is taking lessons, life lessons, from the lives of the great detectives. My working title is All I Needed to Know I Learned from Watching Columbo. So it's a fun project. I'll let you know when and if we finish it and when it'll be available. Well, before we get started with today's show, I do want to remind you, if you have not already, please check out our book, Tales of the Dim Night. It's a fascinating superhero comedy with a strong family element. You have a lot of fun, and it's a pretty entertaining book. You can check it out at dimnight.com. That's dimnight.com. Today we're going to, as we bring you our 350th episode special, we're going to take a look at the radio production of a film that is definitely out of print and has never been released in the current medium of DVD. It's a story starring Peter Lorre as our hero, which is somewhat rare, as usually he's a sinister character of some sort, with Sidney Greenstreet as his companion and the film's and radio production's heavy. This episode comes from the Screen Guild Theater, so it's half an hour. It is from April 16th of 1945. So let's go ahead and take a listen to The Mask of Demetrios.
Lady Astor presents the Screen Guild Players. The Lady Astor Screen Guild play tonight, The Mask of Demetrios. The starring players.
This is Sidney Greenstreet.
And this is Peter Lorre.
Tonight, Lady Astor presents the Screen Guild Players in an intriguing story of drama, suspense, and murder. The Mask of Demetrios, based on the Warner Brothers picture. It stars Peter Lorre as Professor Leyden and Sidney Greenstreet as Eric Peters.
Even now, when I know the whole story, it's difficult to believe it all happened to me. But one must make a start, I suppose. So just for a beginning, let's put down a date. Istanbul, Turkey, 1938. A woman strolling along the beach approaches some jetsam cast up by the sea. She glances at the little mound, turns half away, turns suddenly back to it, and...
Nothing else on the body, Colonel Hackey. The identification card, that's all.
Thank you, Sergeant. Demetrios Macropolis. And now, at last, the case is officially closed.
And so it might have been. The case of Demetrios might have been closed. Only that very afternoon, at a little party in Istanbul, I was introduced to Colonel Hackey, chief of the Turkish secret police.
A pleasure, sir, to meet you at last. So you're the famous Professor Lyman.
Oh, please, not so famous and no longer a professor. I've been retired.
Well, how fortunate. Now you can devote yourself to your writing, to your murder mysteries, huh?
Well, possibly, if I can find material.
Material? The world's full of it. Why, just today... Tell me, have you ever heard of Demetrios?
Demetrios. That was the first time I ever heard his name. Demetrios Macropolis, who sometimes called himself Demetrios Talat, a spy, an assassin, a murderer, hunted by every policeman in Europe, but never once taken into custody. It was a strange tale that Colonel Hackey wove, a story he claimed that had no ending. But I protested the story was ended. Demetrios was dead. He was lying in a morgue that very moment. Whereupon the colonel smiled and suggested we go down and make sure.
On this slab, Colonel, this is Demetrius.
Oh, yes, thanks. Ugly devil, isn't he, Mr. Lyden?
I'm afraid I'm no judge. I've never looked at a dead man before.
Well, this ought to satisfy you for a while. Ah, what a pity that mouth will never talk again. There's still so much I'd like to know. For 16 years, ever since that day in Smyrna, it was my hope to get him. And now I have him. Spewed up by the sea in a cheap, shoddy suit. Dead by stabbing. Mr. Lyden, would you care to see the wound?
No, I don't think so, Colonel.
Had enough, huh?
Yes, quite enough. It wasn't true. I hadn't had enough. That night in my hotel room, trying to sleep, my mind was full of Demetrios. What a character, I thought. What a story he would make. If I could root out the things the police never knew. In Smyrna, in Sofia, in Belgrade, in Paris. There must be people who knew him. All over Europe, there must be people, and... Oh, then I told myself, no, the thing is foolish. It's unthinkable. It's absurd. But even as my mind rejected it, my hand reached out for the telephone.
Good evening. Yes, this is the desk clerk. Mr. Lyden? Oh, yes, sir. Ticket to Smyrna for tomorrow morning. Yes, sir. I'll take care of it at once. You're welcome, sir. Good night.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, yes, sir.
Is Mr. Constantine Gullis staying at this hotel?
Gullis? No, sir. No one by that name.
Thank you. Sorry I've troubled you.
No trouble, sir. We're never busy at this hour. I was just reading about this murder.
Murder?
Demetrios Macropolis. They found him on the beach.
Demetrios?
Yes, sir. Did you know him, sir?
No. No, it's just that... Thank you very much. Good night. Are you sure? Positive?
Well, you can look around the morgue yourself, sir. Not a body in the place.
The paper said this man named Demetrios.
Oh, him. He's gone. Yes. Cremated. About an hour ago.
That man whose life was to cross my own so strangely. I didn't know about him then. I had no hint of him until I got to Smyrna.
I understand what you wish, Mr. Lyman. I will get it for you.
You're sure you know exactly what I want?
But of course. In 1922, a certain Conrad, a moneylender, is stabbed to death.
Uh-huh.
Man named Driss Abdul is charged with the crime.
That's right.
But he goes to his death blaming another man, a certain Demetrios. You wish the records of the trial.
Are you sure you can get them?
For 500 piastres? I have them.
You have them?
Right here, my friend.
But how?
A month ago, a certain man comes to me.
Yeah?
He asks me to get them for him. He pays me well.
Well, why didn't you tell me?
You did not ask.
Well, what was he like? Can you describe him? How did he talk?
Like an Englishman, perhaps.
Yeah?
Or maybe a Frenchman. Or an American. Who knows?
I didn't think much about it then. By now, there was only one thing in my mind: to follow that crooked trail through the years, from Istanbul to Smyrna, from Smyrna to Athens, and from there to Sofia. It was on a train just before we got in. As it happened, I was all alone.
I beg your pardon. I must apologize for intruding. My compartment was so very crowded.
Oh, that's quite all right. Plenty of room in here.
How good of you to put it that way. I'm sure we'll have a very pleasant journey.
Well, a rather short one, I'm afraid. I'm getting off in Sofia.
Oh, that's too bad. I'm going through to Bucharest.
Oh?
If I may introduce myself, my name is Peters.
Peters? I would guess you're English.
By birth, perhaps. But actually, I'm a citizen of the world. To me, all languages are beautiful.
Oh, yes, if one says the right thing.
We're coming into Sofia, sir. I'll take your bag.
Oh, thank you, Porter.
You like Sofia?
Thank you.
Beautiful city. The best hotel is the Slavianska Basada. I hope you don't mind my suggesting it.
Oh, please, to the country, you're very kind.
Not at all. That's the trouble with this world. There's not enough kindness.
Well, I believe you're helping to remedy that deficiency. Goodbye, Mr. Peters.
Goodbye, Mr. Lighton. Goodbye.
Curious sort of fellow. You're... That's funny. How did he know my name? Even then, I didn't guess the truth. Oh, I wondered about Mr. Peters, of course, but I was more concerned with Demetrios. And in Sofia, there was a good deal to be learned. Demetrios, the petty thief. Demetrios, the thug. Demetrios, the blackmailer. Old newspaper files, police court records. I searched them all. And at last, they took me to Madame Irana at the cafe of the Golden Fez. She was sullen at first, suspicious, resentful. But when I told her that Demetrios was dead, she...
Dead? Well, it's very hard to believe.
Well, I saw his body myself.
How did he look?
Oh, his hair was gray, his clothes were old and rather cheap.
So he didn't become rich after all. Not even with my 1,000 francs.
Took 1,000 francs from you?
I gave them to him. It was that afternoon. He rushed into my room and was very excited. He made me promise if the police came, I'd swear he'd been with me all day.
Oh, yes, I've seen the records. I know they question you. Isn't that the day the Prime Minister was killed? Demetrios?
I never knew for sure. He told me he needed 1,000 francs to get away. Once he reached Belgrade, he'd be very rich. He'd send for me.
And did he send for you?
I never heard from him again. Oh, all these years, it wasn't just 1,000 francs.
I understand. You were in love with him.
Liar, thief, assassin, perhaps. And still,
Madame Irana, I've troubled you enough for one evening. You've helped me really a great deal with my story. Possibly if you think of something else,
If I think of something else.
I'll be at my hotel, the Slavianska Basada. o'clock. I didn't realize it was so late.
You're a little early, Mr. Lydon.
Huh? Peters.
Will you close the door, please? Huh? Considering this gun in my hand, that becomes an order, not a request. Now then.
What does this mean? What are you doing in my room? Why have you been going through my things?
Don't move, please. That's better. Now, Mr. Lydon, let us be frank with each other. And I propose to start with your answering a question. Why are you interested in Demetrios?
Demetrios?
Yes, dear Mr. Lydon. From Istanbul to Smyrna. From Smyrna to Athens. From Athens to Sofia. You have been absorbed in tracing his record. You see, I have observed you rather closely.
No doubt.
You haven't answered my question.
I have nothing to hide. I'm interested in Demetrios as a character, as a basis of a book. I may write a detective story.
A detective story? How fascinating.
And now perhaps you'll answer a simple question, Mr. Peters. What is your interest in Demetrios? Did you ever know him?
Mr. Lydon, I do not recollect that I promised to give you any information.
Well, then I have to guess the answers. Is your interest money, perhaps? A treasure Demetrios had left somewhere, huh? Oh, no, when I think of him lying in a morgue, just that shabby suit, not a penny on him, I am forced to... What's the matter?
Did I understand you to say that Demetrios is in a morgue?
Yes, so what of it?
Mr. Lydon, it occurs to me that we can be of great help to each other. What did you say if I proposed an alliance?
An alliance? For what?
I take it you're not a rich man, Mr. Lydon.
No, I'm not rich.
You can be very easily, if you will meet me in Paris.
Why on earth should I go to Paris?
Shall we say to learn the whole story of Demetrios? Mr. Lydon, I'm aware of certain facts which I cannot reveal to you at the moment. You, on the other hand, possess an important piece of information. You may not know it is important, but nevertheless, it is.
But how will that make me rich?
Added to what I already know, it is worth, at the very least, 1 million French francs.
1 million francs?
1 million francs. Mr. Lydon, shall I have the pleasure of seeing you in Paris?
The second act of the Lady Esther Screen Guild play will follow in just a moment. Now, a word from Lady Esther.
Often it's just some one little thing about your appearance that makes the difference between lack of confidence in yourself and complete poise and assurance. For example, you may have a dry, rough skin on which face powder looks all ruffled up and flaky. That can disturb your entire personality, and just when you want to be at your best. So here's what I'd like you to do before powdering. It will make a wonderful change in your appearance. Will give you marvelous new confidence in yourself. Just rub Lady Esther face cream on your skin, and then wipe it off, gently but completely. You see, Lady Esther face cream loosens the dry, clinging particles of skin nature is trying to throw off. And when you wipe off the cream, along with it come all those rough little flakes, leaving only the new, young skin, which is smooth as velvet. And on this new skin, your powder takes on a fresh, vibrant look, a clear, translucent look. Now, if you want proof of all this, make the patch test. Just rub Lady Esther face cream on one side of your face, wipe it off, and apply your powder. Then compare that side of your face with the other. Feel the difference with your fingertips and see the difference in your mirror. Remember, all that counts in the use of any face cream is results. That's why I ask you to make the patch test and compare results with those from any cream you've ever used, regardless of price. Get a jar of Lady Esther face cream tonight if you possibly can. You'll find it wherever good cosmetics are sold.
And now, Lady Esther presents the second act of The Mask of Demetrios, starring Sidney Greenstreet and Peter Lorre, who continues our story.
Yes, I did go to Paris. Quite eagerly, in fact. The story of Demetrios had grown beyond anything I dared to imagine. I knew that now I could never drop it until I had discovered the end. So I arrived, and after a busy 24 hours, I telephoned Peters that I was there. I must give him credit. He wasted no time. Within the hour, he was at my hotel.
My dear Mr. Leyden, I cannot tell you how glad I am to see you.
Glad enough to leave your gun at home?
But of course.
Oh, that's good. Permits me to speak more freely, Mr. Peterson.
Peterson? You know about that?
Oh, yes, and more. Your name is Eric Peterson. You belong to a smuggling gang organized here in Paris by Demetrios. You were arrested in December 1931, fined 2,000 francs, and sentenced to 1 month imprisonment.
Who told you that?
Oh, no one. I dug that out for myself. Old newspaper files are very interesting. Well, yesterday I found this story and this picture of you.
Oh, yes, that picture. Not very flattering, is it?
Oh, well, we are not discussing photography, Mr. Peterson.
Please. The name is Peters now.
All right, then, Peters. You know, in Istanbul, I was told that Demetrios betrayed a lot of you to the police in order to ensure his own escape. Is that true?
Demetrios behaved very badly to us all.
Oh, yes, and there was talk of vengeance. You all threatened to kill him as soon as you were free.
I did not threaten. Some of the others, perhaps.
Oh.
Constantine Gullis was always a hothead.
Oh, I see. You did not threaten. You preferred to act.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
No? Well, let me put it this way. It is believed that Demetrios died a poor man. Is that likely? Your gang must have made a lot of money for him.
Very great deal.
And he was not the sort to let it go, was he? So, do you know what's in my mind, Mr. Peters? I am wondering if you killed Demetrios for his money.
Mr. Leyden, I think you are very indiscreet.
Do you?
And also very fortunate. Now, just suppose I had killed Demetrios. Shouldn't I now be forced to kill you, too?
Oh, sure. So you did bring your gun.
Yes. I lied to you a moment ago, I admit it. I was curious to know what you would do.
Well, now you know.
Mr. Leyden, even if you cannot be indiscreet, at least try to use your imagination. Is it likely that Demetrios will make a will in my favor? No. Then how could I put my hands on his money? People no longer keep their wealth in treasure chests, you know.
No, I suppose they don't.
Then what motive would I have to kill him? Come now, Mr. Leyden, let us be sensible. I know you disapprove of me. I really cannot blame you. But since we must do business together, let us cultivate at least the illusion of friendship. Shall we dine together tonight?
Very well.
Excellent. Afterwards, we'll have coffee in my apartment. And then, Mr. Leyden, you shall know everything.
Everything?
Everything. It's an honor to have you here, Mr. Leyden. Such an excellent dinner, too. Tell me, how do you like me, this place?
Your place? Oh, I noticed the name on the door was Godfrey.
A friend of mine. He's away at the moment.
Oh, I see.
You conclude, I suppose, that I am Godfrey.
Well,
Mr. Leyden, you're rather naive. But let us get to our business now. I have a picture here in this drawer. Ah, here it is. Tell me, do you recognize it?
Oh, of course, that's Demetrios.
Yes, I thought you'd say that.
Is there any reason why I shouldn't?
One slight reason. It's not Demetrios.
What on earth do you mean?
I mean, this is a photograph of Constantine Gullis.
In Istanbul, in a morgue, I saw it.
Perhaps I'd better explain. When we who had been betrayed were released from prison, Demetrios had disappeared. Gullis spent years tracking him down. And when he found him, Demetrios acted first. He invited Gullis on a cruise.
And murdered him.
It was Gullis's body that you saw.
Then Demetrios is alive.
Alive and flourishing right here in Paris. That is why you have come, Mr. Leyden.
Me?
Our friend has assumed another name, of course. He is fabulously rich. He moves in the very best circles. Director of several prominent banks. It should be worth something to him to protect his position. It should be worth precisely 1 million francs.
Blackmail.
You choose to be vulgar?
I choose to have no part of it.
I'm afraid you forget.
I know. You still have your gun.
Yes. You see, Demetrios may want proof. He might ask you to describe the body.
No, you're insane to cross a man like that. Once he knows where you are.
But he doesn't know. In my note to him, I specified that the money should be delivered to a messenger at Versailles. The messenger will take a route, devious, and meet us several miles from here. It's almost time now. Shall we go?
Hey, Mr. Peters, do you really think he'll pay?
Of course. I haven't the slightest doubt.
No, I have a feeling it's too easy.
The great things are always easy. Listen, the car. Yes, it's a Renault. That's it. Ça va? Good. I have it. I have it. This is here, isn't it beautiful? All in 1,000-franc note.
Well, then it appears that you have won. Mr. Peters, I don't think you'll need me any longer.
But, Mr. Leiden, your share.
I never intended taking any part of it.
Yes, I can understand that you would think that way. But at least you must help me count it, my friend, and help me celebrate. A bottle of champagne, the very best. A great vintage year, say 1919 or 1920. 100 francs a bottle. I insist.
You insist?
Yes, I insist. Well, now here we are. Back home, safe and sound.
Sound perhaps, but I'm not so sure we are safe.
Mr. Leiden, you are cautious, aren't you? But perhaps wisely so. I must confess to you, even if you had demanded your share of this million, I doubt if you would have gotten it.
I was aware of that.
Then we can drink as friends. Now, here is the champagne, and all we need is some ice. I'll get it from the kitchen. It won't take... Demetrios!
You don't flatter me by looking so surprised. You must have known I was not entirely stupid.
Listen, Demetrios...
What a fool you were to send your note by messenger. It was so simple to trace him to... Don't move, Peterson. You either, sir.
No, Demetrios, put down that gun. I'll give the money back. Go away. Oh, no.
Another one.
Another one. And now you.
No, not me. Don't shoot! No.
I'm sorry. I had to do it.
Leiden. He's down. Gun.
I've got it. You see this, Demetrios? I have your gun. If you move, I'll shoot.
I think you would. Look here. If you shoot me, you'll only get 1 million. Release me, and I'll give you another as well.
Please, go get the police.
But then he'll get away.
I have my gun. Cover him.
All right.
No, monsieur, wait. If you go, he'll shoot me. Don't you see that? Why not take my offer?
I shall be back with the police.
I'll give you 3 million.
Watch him, Peter.
5 million, monsieur.
I'll be back as fast as I can. No, he couldn't. Peters, you said you would only... Peters! Dead. Both of them dead. So this is the end of Demetrios. This is the end of the story. Peters, you didn't live to know it, did you? You didn't live to open your champagne. All right. I'll open it. I'll drink to you. I'll drink to you because I have my story now. Because... Huh? What's this? Champagne Sec, 1934? 5 francs the bottle in any cafe. I should have known that, Peters. I should have guessed. You cheated even on the champagne.
Thank you, Peter Lorre and Sidney Greenstreet, for your fine performances in tonight's play. The Lady Esther Screen Guild players are grateful for your appearance here because, as you know, the benefits from these programs go to support the fine work of the Motion Picture Relief Fund and its country house. And now, before we tell you about next week's play, here's a word from one of America's best-known beauty authorities, Lady Esther.
I've always said, seeing is believing. That's why I ask you once again to make the Lady Esther patch test. I want you to see with your own eyes exactly what happens when you apply Lady Esther four-purpose face cream. I want to prove how much fresher and lovelier your skin will look than it's ever looked before. You can make this simple test in the time you count 30. Just rub Lady Esther face cream on one side of your face. Then wipe it off and run your fingers over that patch of skin. Feel the difference. Feel how smooth and silky it's become to your touch. Now apply your powder and see the difference. See how the dull, drab look is gone, how your skin has taken on new life, new beauty. You see, Lady Esther face cream does all these four things. 1, it thoroughly cleans your skin. 2, it softens your skin. 3, it helps nature refine the pores. And 4, it leaves a perfect base for powder. Does the face cream you now use do all these things? I don't care what you pay for it. Even if it's 10 times as much as Lady Esther face cream, I still say, make the patch test and compare. See with your own eyes how very much more Lady Esther face cream does for your skin than any cream you've ever used. See how it instantly beautifies the tone, texture, and entire appearance of your skin.
Next week, the Lady Esther Screen Guild players will present Flesh and Fantasy. It will star Ella Raines and Charles Boyer. Be sure to listen. Peter Lorre is currently appearing in Hotel Berlin. Sidney Greenstreet will soon be seen in Pillow to Post, both Warner Brothers productions. In last week's program, Dennis O'Keefe appeared through the courtesy of Edward Small Productions and can now be seen in their latest picture, Brewster's Millions. Music on tonight's program was arranged and conducted by Wilbur Hatch. Truman Bradley speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, I definitely want to get my hands on the VHS of that, or hopefully they'll be kind enough to release a DVD soon. It's a fascinating story, and Laura actually did a pretty good job as the hero here. By the way, if you have our app or the premium site, we have an extra for you, and this one also features Sidney Greenstreet. It's an episode of the Screen Guild Theater. The star is Humphrey Bogart in an espionage adventure across the Pacific. Listen to that. If you have the app or our premium site, the app is available in the iTunes store for your iPhone, in the App Store for the Android phone, and you can get our premium site access, which gives access to both Great Detectives of Old Time Radio and Old Time Dragnet extras for a tip of $7, and you can click the donation button at greatdetectives.net to do that. Well, that'll do it for now. We'll be back on Monday with the Abbotts. In the meantime, send your comments to box13 at greatdetectives.net. Become one of our friends on Facebook, facebook.com/Radio Detectives. And remember, every month, please cast your vote for us on Podcast Alley at podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.